Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. This is your DC November solicitations for the books that are coming up in November. Now, obviously, when we did the October solicitations, that was the huge news with DC's All-In initiative that had been announced, along with the new creative teams for those books and what have you. But one of the things that DC said, both in the panels, people representing the company and creators as well, it's like, this is only the beginning of new things that are coming. So that's part of the reason we decided to go ahead and do this November solicitations, because in anticipation of this announcement, which dropped on Friday, August 16th, that last week, throughout that entire week, almost every day, DC was announcing, hey, there's this new series coming with, and here's the creative team, there's this new series coming with this creative team for days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, announcing these series. Some of them they announced through press releases that got sent pretty wide to a variety of outlets. Others, they some of their media partners, like Polygon, for example, were able to announce exclusively, and then all the other sites have to pick it up from Polygon or what have you. But pretty interesting. But it got me thinking as I was going through these solicitations and what have you for the upcoming books that are coming in November. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited. I wrote articles about some of these announced series, most of them, and talked a little bit about, my thoughts on it, and I'll give more of those thoughts here as well. But it got me thinking, like, Rocky, do you remember when you first started collecting comics? Did you look at those solicitations way back in whatever early 80s?
Well, no, well, we're talking 1976, so no, I never read solicitations. I just picked up my comics and read them from off the stand, to
Right.
be honest.
Right, exactly. Right. And even, the direct market, as it started to grow in the early 80s, it wasn't that solicitations weren't available to the public. There certainly wasn't the availability there is now, right? Like, you couldn't just, there was no internet, or at least not, one that was easily accessible by the general public. You could go ask your comic shops. I remember one of the first comic shops I went to, and they were also mail order. Right, there was mail order. I think at that time, Mile High did mail order. Westfield was a huge one, but again, back there, no websites. You would, like, if you did Westfield, and I did that for a little while while I was in high school. They would literally mail you an envelope that had like 4 or 5 sheets stapled together, and it just had like the title, whatever, Batman 400, 401, whatever, and you just checked it. And very rarely did it have any copy in there about what the book was about. Now, ahead of time, Westfield would get a copy of the solicitations that they could read and know what it was about. If there was something big going down, they could order more copies and what have you. But my point is, it was more of a mystery of what you were getting. There wasn't all of this information available, because I've talked about the insanity of the direct market and comic books in general. So for those, a quick refresher for those not familiar. So in order to kind of get an idea of how many copies, what sort of print run, the size of the print run a publisher wants to do for a specific book, they take what's called pre-orders, right? So 2 months before the comic comes out, before it's even technically manufactured, before it's made, retailers have to order. So you're ordering something that technically doesn't even exist yet, which, is not unheard of. But certainly the fact that you, sight unseen, are committing, X amount of dollars to this, comic before it's made, before it's printed, and then assuming it's going to get printed, and then assuming it's going to get shipped to you, which was a problem with Image back in the day, right? Like, the comics would show up on the invoices, retailers would pay for them, they wouldn't actually be in the box because they'd be late, and so retailers were putting out money for a product they couldn't have to sell to recoup their money. So it's sort of the same thing. Here we are, decades later. You think there would be a better way to do it now, but again, due to the nature of printing, which people, there's a collectability to comics. You want to be able to hold. I still buy some physical comics, not as many. If this was all digital, this could go away. You could shorten that span, but then at the same time, why do you need a direct market then? So there's a lot of intricacies. It's such a unique, the comic direct market is so unique in it. It's hard to make it work, and these are a lot of the reasons why. But I think a little bit something's been lost, and I'll point to Robert Kirkman as somebody who has at various times tried to recapture that magic of not knowing when, like The Walking Dead, for example, he kept soliciting it past when he knew it was going to end, or There was another comic that he did, I think it was called Kill, 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 a few years ago, where it wasn't in the solicitations. He just sent copies to comic shops, and then they did have to buy subsequent issues, but as a way to surprise people. So I'm going through these solicitations, I'm looking at the covers, I'm reading about what's happening, and yeah, there's a little bit of the mystery that's been lost. And, you know, you and I, we've talked about it many times, how we loved back in the day when comic covers used to have something to do with what was actually going on inside. That's much less the case now. But I think part of it is because they are in some ways trying not to spoil. And I specifically noticed in this DC Connect, which covers, the month of November, with October being all in and everything starting with a new story arc and new creative teams on certain books, there's a lot of books where, okay, I'm going to be telling this new story arc, I'm going to introduce a new villain, right? And maybe it's hinted at, maybe they're named, maybe not in the in the October solicits. But being that it's a second part of the story, a lot of times now the villain is being named. But guess what? They're still not showing up on the cover because you don't want to spoil it before they've had their first appearance in October. So I don't know. I think, again, it's cool and we get to go through and talk about this and speculate, and it's fun. But I think a little bit of the magic and the mystery has been lost. But again, in the modern world and the way information's disseminated, I think people sort of expect to be able to know ahead of time what they're going to be spending their money on. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. You know,
I share your mixed feelings, but I mean, that's the reality nowadays. You gotta, they're trying to, look, let's be blunt, to be a little bit more vulgar about it. I think they're trying to suck and blow at the same time. And you know, that just never works out for anybody. And, but I mean, I get it. And it just so happens, and we'll see as we go through this, I do have mixed feelings. I got mixed feelings of joy and disappointment with these solicitations, you know, because some of the surprises I'm genuinely happy about. Others I'm kind of surprised and not so happy about, which is kind of what you expect, because what DC has done right, I think, is that we do have a wide variety of comics, as they promised, and because human nature being what it is, it's not, you know, not every title is going to appeal to everybody, but it's not supposed to. Variety is the spice of DC Comics when they're firing on all cylinders, and I'm hopeful. I remain hopeful. I wish some of it's too spoilery. I think they could have kept some things under the belt, but I think they're a little bit worried. I think they're DC's chomping at the bit to get this out and for the absolute and all in to begin.
Yeah, again, it's just like you said, trying to have their cake and eat it too. It's like you need to put out the information so retailers can be excited. But then when you're naming new villains, when you're giving, you know, parts of the story, it's almost like they need to do two different solicitations, one for retailers and one for the general public. But we know that wouldn't be the case, right? The retailer one would get leaked anyway, so then they're just wasting their time. So again, it's kind of the nature of solicitations and the pre-order aspect of comics that, yeah, unfortunately things get spoiled. I mean, we could do a whole. We don't generally focus on movies here, but we could do a whole conversation about movie trailers spoiling things these days too. But yeah, we're not going down that path. But anyway, let's dive into the solicitations. The first big one, obviously, that people are really looking forward to is the Justice League. We see here Dan Mora cover. Star Sapphire is a member. Black Lightning is a member. Honestly, just about everybody's a member of the Justice League at this point. If you listen to our Mark Waid interview. And it's going to be mission, like who shows up in a particular issue is going to be mission based, like who's needed, right? But a lot of people are going to be members of the Justice League. That's why in the panel, I remember at San Diego Comic-Con, Mark Waid is asking people in the audience to just yell out names, and he's like, yeah, they're on the team. They're on the team. They're on the team. Yeah, everybody's on the team. We have another cover here from Andy Kubert, which shows the Watchtower. Another here, which shows Martian Manhunter in a much more alien-looking form by Jim Lee, and Adam is standing there on Superman's shoulder. So yeah, variety of covers. They all look great. Here's a one that's a wraparound cover. We see Darkseid there. We know he's going to have a lot to do with the Justice League getting back together. So as you would expect with the new Justice League, here's a Daniel Sampere wraparound as well. As you would expect, there's going to be a lot of covers for this. It's a new Justice League #1. It's being written by Mark Waid. Dan Mora is the artist, which I think he's got such a classic feel. It's a great choice. Justice League's back bigger than ever in the wake of absolute power and DC All In. Darkseid's death. What? Again, why is that there? It's a little spoilery, but anyway, it's triggered a massive power vacuum in the DCU. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman unite like never before, and then expand the Justice League to encompass every hero, as I was saying, to champion the forces of good in the face of evil. Our heroes work to uncover the mystery of the Dark Lord's successor. So who's that going to be? At least they didn't tell us who that is. It's huge news. Darkseid has died. I can't believe they put that in the solicitation. But yeah, there it is. Ray Palmer Atom Project triggers a race between hero and villain to control the fate of metahuman abilities on Earth. That's something that we know Mark Waid hinted at, that, hey, powers are going to get restored after absolute power, but maybe not everybody's powers are restored fully or in the same way or what they were before. So it sounds like this Atom Project might have to do with that. Worlds will live, worlds will die. Classic Crisis tagline there. And surprises waiting in store on the last page. Don't miss the dawn of the new era of justice. It all begins here. It's huge news. Huge news. Darkseid is dying. And before I toss it over to you, Rocky, I do want to point out, I'm using the Adventures in Poor Taste AIPT.com website. That's why you're seeing some ads, because I just don't have access to the DC Connect catalog. That's a whole nother story for another day. But just want to give credit where credit's due. That's the site we're using for this solicitations. But yeah, what do you think? Spoiling in Darkseid's death.
Well, yeah, it's kind of it's weird. I almost feel like we could almost like quasi review a comic we haven't read yet. I mean, we know that maybe the Absolute Universe, we know from Solicitations it's going to be kind of premised on Darkseid energy versus the heroic Superman energy of the mainstream universe, arguably. So Darkseid dies, and maybe we can infer a lot from these solicitations, or infer wrongly. But I have to admit, we talk in them how we talk about mixed feelings about these solicitations. The fanboy in me, that my head canon's going insane. I'm creating stories before I even get, and sometimes when these comics come out, sometimes they're not as good as what I imagine them to be based on the solicitation. So sometimes that's the double-edged sword, because I've been reading comics for so long. Dare I say, I think I'm like a lot of us, and I don't say this with ego. I think we're all the same way. The stories that we create in our head, they're all awesome to us because, we imagine these stories to be great, and these solicitations really get me excited. I think that's awesome. I don't think Darkseid's really dead. I think something's gone. But what's going on? What's the devil's always in the details. So, again, these solicitations, it's whetting my appetite. I gotta admit.
Yeah, it's a good point. Maybe they think Darkseid's dead, but Darkseid's really over in the Absolute Universe. That would be a cool twist. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, again, I was just surprised to see that in there, like right away. Hey, let's go spoiler. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on. Up next, we have Absolute Batman. We see that new version of Alfred there, which is just awesome. Everything that we've heard about him, it sounds really cool. This is covered by regular series artist Nick Dragotta. We've got a couple of other ones. The one on the right there is by Daniel Warren Johnson. It's just absolutely amazing. He's so huge. Every time I see this version of Batman and seeing him that big, I think back to the nickname that Scott Snyder said they gave him. He mentioned that during San Diego Comic-Con, the Batman who lifts. That's just all I could think. He's so gigantic. He just looks amazing. Snyder's the writer, Dragotta the art. And yeah, Batman born out of violence, horrible tragedy. We're being introduced to an MI6 agent who starts tracking the life of Bruce Wayne. Is that Alfred Pennyworth? It doesn't say specifically whether it is, but it could be, I suppose. And we know Black Mask Gang is going to be the first villain that the Absolute Batman faces, which we've seen, and you could just Google Absolute Black Mask if you want to see what he looks like. He has this bulbous black head. It looks like he's wearing like a fishbowl on his head in a lot of ways. So yeah, his visual didn't look the best to me. But, until I see it on the actual comic page and in the story, I'll hold off judgment on that. But, yeah, at least this is not too spoilery, this solicitation.
Yeah. Well, I actually, it's funny. For me, I guess it's because believe it or not, I know we review DC Comics every week, but this was a total spoiler to me. I had no idea Alfred was going to be. This is a spoiler to me. It just goes to show you that it depends on how much. I guess I was busy all week, but this is a total spoiler for me. I wish I wouldn't have known this, to be honest. I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool. I love that cover. I love Alfred. Again, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, of course, I'm going to get buy Absolute Batman. I mean, they don't need to solicit this. We're going to buy it anyway. You don't need to do this. But I get it. I get it. Again, it's a double-edged sword here. I'm excited about it. I'm definitely all in, so to speak. But yeah, no buts. I like it. I love the covers. Daniel Warren Johnson's cover. I mean, my God, the guy's fantastic. I have a feeling there's a lot of people on Twitter I noticed that were talking about that Daniel Warren Johnson cover, and that's one guy that if he never writes for Transformers or never writes again, he can just do cover art for the rest of his life and make a nice, comfortable living.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's not even drawing Transformers anymore. He's just writing it now.
Yeah.
But yes, and I think he is leaning more into doing just cover work. But obviously, he has other stories to tell as well. But yeah, I think maybe because I was in the room when they're talking about Absolute Batman and they talked about Alfred. I was aware that it's going to be a different relationship and that sort of thing. So yeah, knew he's kind of the point of view character. In fact, I think Scott said that on the interview that's up on my YouTube channel. So go check that out if you are so inclined. All right, next up. Absolute Superman. This is issue number 1 because unlike Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman, which come out in October, Absolute Superman is not coming out until November. Jason Aaron is the writer, Rafa Sandoval on art. See a few different covers there. If you saw my interview with Jason Aaron, and thanks everybody for the kind words. I had a feeling when I was talking to him, hey, this is a pretty good interview. He's telling me stuff that he hasn't told anybody else, so kind of had some exclusives. That was cool. But I never know in the moment, like I feel like it's a good interview, but I'm always a little self-critical. But based on the response, everybody loved that interview. A lot of people have reached out to tell me it was fantastic, whatever. So
it was really good.
Yeah, appreciate the kind words. If you haven't seen it, one of the things that Jason Aaron told us was this Absolute Superman, his cape is literally made out of the dust of Krypton. And that's why if you zoom in on this, you'll see like little specks of dust. The cape doesn't look completely solid. So that's really cool. That's really fantastic. We also have a Jim Lee cover and a Wes Craig cover, as you see here. So this one doesn't get too spoilery because, again, this is not the second issue. So DC is a little better about not spoiling things when it's a first issue. And we're just told, without the fortress, without the family, without the home, what's left is the absolute Man of Steel. Again, if you go listen to my interview with Jason, he talks a lot about, other than, Krypton exploded. Other than that, throw out everything you know. I'm really excited to see what's coming. One of the things I will say is some people have commented on the interview with Jason, and they're kind of like, well, how can he be this without that or whatever? And I just want to remind people, the Superman that we know now, the mythos and some of the things that Daily Planet and his ability to fly and kryptonite and all that stuff, they didn't exist when Superman first showed up. Jimmy Olsen first showed up in the radio show, right? So it took a long time to build the mythos of Superman, the Superman that you think you know. Not all that didn't exist in the very beginning. So it's okay to remove some of that stuff. People are like, oh, how can he be Superman? I mean, Ma and Pa Kent, they didn't exist. Smallville didn't exist when Superman first debuted in Action Comics #1. All that stuff came later. So how can he still be Superman without Ma and Pa Kent raising him, whatever? That's the exciting part. That's what we get to discover. The fact that he doesn't have a Ma and Pa Kent and he still wants to help people and do whatever without that inherent goodness instilled in him by Middle America, that's interesting to me. Let's see how that unfolds. So just because it doesn't have your favorite aspect of the Superman as we know him now doesn't mean it's not going to be good, and it doesn't invalidate the Superman in the main DC universe. If you don't like Absolute Superman, you don't have to read it. You can go read the classic Superman in the main line. So yeah, I remain really, really excited for this. I was a little trepidatious about the Absolute Universe overall, but again, speaking to everybody at San Diego Comic-Con, all the creators so excited. They got me more excited than I possibly thought I could be. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, and one of the things that really shone through on your interview with Jason Aaron was Jason Aaron's passion. I mean, he absolutely loved it. You could tell he every word that came out of his mouth it came out with a mouth that had a big smile on it. He loves the project, and his passion shows. And we know from his past projects over at Marvel. I enjoyed a lot of his work there, especially as Jane Foster Thor. I just finished reading up his Punisher run, which I thought was. Actually, I really loved it. It was divisive, but I thought it was really good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what he has for Superman. And I share your sentiment. The number of people out there that have some very curious comments on Superman. Okay, I guess you didn't like Injustice Superman. You don't like Red Sun Superman. You don't like Superman other than when he comes from Kansas. And why don't you go out and buy the Superman comic then? Because his sales should be higher than they are. But anyways, I could one little rant about the intelligence of some people's comments, but I'll just leave it and say if uh, I have a feeling Absolute Superman's going to sell like hotcakes. And because the whole point is you're not a Superman unless you're tested, and this Superman's going to be tested a hell of a lot more than the one from mainstream Kansas. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, without the supporting cast, without all the things that we
Hmm.
know that help him out, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And we've said all the time, so Batman's the engine that drives DC. He pays the bills. But when Superman comics are doing well, that's when the universe is at its best. So I
Yeah,
wonder.
agreed.
I think that'll be the case with the Absolute Universe as well. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see. All right, up next, we've got Absolute Wonder Woman. Just look at that gigantic sword. Very
Yeah.
much a manga feel. This cover here is from the regular series artist Hayden Sherman. Kelly Thompson is the writer. Hayden Sherman, as I said, a regular series artist. We know we're getting variant covers from Joelle Jones and Stephanie Hans, although we're not showing them. And Gateway City apparently is where her headquarters is going to be. It says Gateway City's never seen anything like the Harbinger Prime. It's this enormous ravenous monster that's come up from the depths of the sea, but the Harbinger Prime has never seen anything like the unstoppable Diana, princess of the underworld. We know we've been told she comes from hell as opposed to coming from Themyscira. So really curious how this is going to play out. Again, I'm a huge Kelly Thompson fan. I think she's super talented. Very curious. I feel like we know less about Absolute Wonder Woman than we know about Absolute Batman and Absolute Superman, partly because Kelly Thompson wasn't at San Diego Comic-Con to give us hints, and I haven't seen her do a lot of press, and she's super busy. I reached out to congratulate her on Absolute Wonder Woman. I did not even bother to ask her to come back on the show because I know how busy she is. But she said, "Yeah, we'll make it happen when the time is right." Even though that I didn't bring it up, but I think she wants to. I get the feeling, knowing Kelly, that she kind of wants to work to speak for itself before she starts talking about it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, first I want to talk about the cover. There's a nice little, if you like George Perez, the building has the sign Perez on it in the
Oh yeah.
background. But it's I love the cover. I love the outfit. I love the sword. I love the fact that it's kick-ass Wonder Woman. I'm a little bit trepidatious about this. Oh, admittedly, it's because we don't know a lot about it. In defense of Kelly Thompson, she hasn't really spoken much about this. I the solicits for the first issue. I if ever there was a character I think that maybe needed a little bit more information in the solicitation, I would have thought it would be a Wonder Woman. That's just my bias, but I it sounds very tropey to me. It says Wonder Woman fighting a monster. I need more than that. She's from hell. I want more than that. I hope there's more in this first issue to grab our attention other than the fact that she doesn't have an island and what have you, and she doesn't have her island sisters. So I'm really hoping that there's more, and I'm hoping that this is an example of them intentionally leaving out some major revelations in the solicitation. I would respect that. I'm hoping that the art looks fantastic. Great, she's going to be kick-ass. She's got a kick-ass sword. You got my attention. Now let's nail it with the story. So I'm very curious.
I do find it interesting. Kryptonian Age, Gotham by Gaslight Kryptonian Age has a Wonder Woman that's also from in the middle
Yeah,
of the Earth. It's not
that's right. Yeah,
Themyscira out in the middle of nowhere. It's still Themyscira, but it's not out in the it's not paradise by any stretch of the imagination. Pretty interesting how
yeah,
there's some parallels between those two.
yeah.
All right.
There's
Up next, we see this is Detective Comics. Couple covers here. One from the main series artist, Mikel Janin. We have a very moody one where you can just barely see Batman up there at the top, which is by, I think it's Ashley Wood. There's this one is, I think this is awesome. This is an action figure, Todd McFarlane Toys,
yeah,
with probably an AI generated or a computer generated background, which looks awesome. And there's one here with a very deranged looking Joker from Simon Bisley.
mm,
And then Bruno Redondo, Tom Taylor's longtime collaborator on Nightwing, has one as well. So this is the second issue of the Detective Comics run from Tom Taylor with Mikel Janin. Interesting here. This is one of the solicitations where, again, we know so much more than we did in the first issue. We know that Tom is going back and exploring some things at the very earliest origins, and we know there's a new villain. Now he's been named Asima, scalpel-fingered villain, who, as Tom mentioned when I talked to him, is killing criminals, small-time criminals. What's the purpose of the murders? How do they concern the Dark Knight? So that's the mystery at the center of Detective Comics. Tom mentioned, wanting to return Detective Comics to exploring Batman as the world's greatest detective. But the first part of the solicitation, very interesting as well, something that I haven't heard anywhere. Tom didn't mention it to me. Bruce Wayne, rather, has been offered a mysterious youth serum known only as Sandgrowl. Promises to rejuvenate mind and body, making him strong and nimble as he once was. Can he possibly accept a strange gift? That is really interesting to me, right? One of the things about Batman that sometimes stretches the believability is, man, how could he do this without any superpowers, get beat up and stabbed and shot time and time again and still be able to function? So I'm very curious about this. And also a way to go to reset, right? To go back and make a younger Batman without rebooting or restarting things. So yeah, interesting, very interesting. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. He's experimented with Venom, so why not something that can maybe make him younger instead of necessarily stronger? Best way to get young, I guess, best way to get strong is to maybe get younger and be in your prime. Because in the mainstream DC universe, the heroes they've aged. They're probably 10 years older. That Superman's not perpetually 29 anymore. He's probably closer to 40. Same with Batman, because they got teenage children, albeit some of them are aged up. Age, it's all bonkers. Who knows? Maybe there's something to this this serum. I mean, maybe it won't just be Batman taking it. It's got all the heroes in their prime. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But Tom Taylor always has a knack for coming up with really good ideas, and he's pretty good at writing out of continuity tales. This is his mainstream Batman, so I'm really curious to see where he's going to take it.
Yeah, could it have possibly anything to do with Lazarus resin, or which can
who knows?
Rejuvenate as well? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, regular Batman is up next. Court of Owls, which wasn't mentioned in the new story arc that was talked about last issue, but we see them here. And again, fantastic Court of Owls. I mean, Batman fighting Talons looks absolutely fantastic. A lot of covers for this one. So written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Fornes. We have Tony Harris, Jeremy Clark, John Boy Myers, as well as Bjorn Barons doing a cover. Unfortunately, the Bjorn Barons, which is just a fantastic cover, is a 1 in 25, which kind of bugs me because, man, that looks so good. And there's a toy variant as well here from McFarlane Toys, Red Hood, which looks really cool. But anyway, after the shocking events of last issue, Batman's reeling, investigation isn't over, Court of Owls, intent on destroying Bruce Wayne's life, Commander Starr, which was mentioned in last month's Solicit is this new hero. He continues to stoke the flames of evil and unrest. Hall heats up in an unforgettable chapter of Dying City, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about the next because there's 2 issues of Batman that's coming out. Got Jorge Jimenez on the main cover. Here's a Batman 66 McFarlane Toys cover. Tony Daniels doing the art for Batman 156, and it's continuing, obviously, the story with this Court of Owls and this Commander Starr. GCPD's closing in on the suspected killer and on Batman. Wayne Enterprises under attack as Nigma, who wasn't mentioned in the 155 solicit, but is mentioned in 154 as has the Riddler gone legit. We know he hasn't. Looks like maybe Nigma's trying to take over Wayne Enterprises. Not sure on that. But his plans come into focus in this issue. The owls are not what they seem. What does that mean? Don't miss the thrilling penultimate issue of the Dying City. So I will say that DC has done a good job of intriguing me with what's happening in the next couple issues here of Zdarsky's Batman. And it does feel a little more focused on Batman himself, a little more intimate. That failsafe story, although good, it drew in so much outside stuff, right? Because it was a threat that Batman couldn't handle on his own. We had members of the Justice League showing up, other members of the Bat family showing up. Not to say we won't have members of the Bat family showing up here, but this does feel a little more focused on Batman himself and on Bruce Wayne because of the threat to Wayne Enterprises. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. to me, this feels more like what I expected from Zdarsky's Batman run to begin with. And that was all predicated on what we got from his Daredevil run, which was really focused on the core character with a lot of great characterization, as opposed to feeling big in scope. So far, Zdarsky's Batman has felt really large in scope, and the stories he's telling have felt like they've affected and had consequences for larger DC universe. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But at times, I want to read Batman because I want to read Batman, and I just want to focus on Batman. I want to focus on Bruce Wayne. It seems like this story arc is going to do that, so I'm really excited for it. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I've always enjoyed a slightly different perspective. I enjoyed Failsafe, that particular storyline. I like the narrow focus of it. I like the Dr. Capio and relationship with the Joker, those aspects of it. How it affects the larger city proper, I was less a fan of. He's seeing that this is the dying city. If it's just falling into the cliche of, once again, Gotham City is just under attack. I like the parts of this advertisement that I'm focused on in this solicitation is I like the focus on this Commander Star, and what it brings out in Batman. I like the focus on Riddler because there seems to be a new Riddler. Riddler was affected by Dr. Caprio, so I'm looking forward to the continuation of those storylines and character arcs that Chip Zdarsky had, more so than how it affects the larger city proper of Gotham City. But obviously, it's all connected. We'll see. But I'm on board. It's Batman, and I've been generally enjoying Zdarsky's run. Gotham War not being an exception.
Yeah, again, super interesting. If you go back and look at the solicits for Batman 154, we do get a slight look at Commander Star. We just kind of see his torso or his head and shoulders, basically. But none of these covers for 155 or 156 show Commander Star. And based on the solicitation, it seems like he's going to be a main part of the story. So again, this is, I think, one of those things where they don't want to show
maybe
him.
It's the Riddler. Maybe it's Commander Star is really the Riddler.
I don't think so. I don't see Nigma as really physical, and he looks kind of physically imposing from what I can see. I think it's just more one of those situations where they don't want to reveal too much of him before he actually shows up and makes his first appearance in the comic, which I get. I totally understand. So, all right. Up next, we have more Batman. Jorge Jimenez cover. Very classic looking cover here. Yeah. One here from Nakayama. Here's the thing about this. This whole book is covers. It's just covers, right? So although we have some variant covers for this issue itself from Jim Lee, Joel Jones, Doug Mahnke, Jorge Jimenez, Greg Capullo, it's Batman uncovered. We don't even really need to read the solicitations because we know exactly what that means. It means we're going to get a cover. We're going to get a comic book of just Batman covers, like we had Poison Ivy, like we had Harley Quinn, what have you. So it's fine. I don't necessarily mind it. But I'm not the biggest fan of these because there's no actual story. But I'm sure it'll sell. That being said, it's still going to sell really well because it is a chance for people to get their hands on variant covers that were ratioed, and that they might not have had a chance to have otherwise. So I don't really know if you have anything to add, Rocky.
No, not really. I mean, it is what it is. It's if you like Batman covers, pick it up. Otherwise, spend a lot more money and buy the variants.
yeah, 100%. Speaking of Jason Aaron, we have the conclusion of his Batman Offworld. This is issue number 6. Amazing main cover there from Doug Mahnke. We have a couple of variant covers showing Batman at various stages of action. Doug Mahnke, as I mentioned, is the interior artist. We've got Dan Moore and Alan Quah on variant covers. Batman's ready to return to Gotham City to apply everything he learned out in space from this unbelievable adventure. Unfortunately, the Black Sun twins still have one last lesson for him, it says. A lesson exploring the final frontiers of pain. It's a brutal, surprising finale to Jason Aaron and Doug Mahnke's Batman epic. Again, Jason Aaron mentioned when I talked to him about wanting to do something different with Batman. He certainly has done this. This has been a great series, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these last couple issues finish up.
If I had one wish, it would be that Batman Offworld was a series. I would kill for a 24 issue series of Batman in space before he returns. Put him in a time warp, have him spend 2 years in space, and when he comes back, only one day has passed on Earth, so we can enjoy a 2-year run. I think it's fantastic. You and I get some solicitations, some previews, and I absolutely love it. I really love this series. I think it's one of the best Batman tales to come out in a very, very long time. And it's really unfortunate that it's ending because if Jason Aaron's going to continue one series, it should be Batman Offworld.
Yeah, it is fantastic. I love the Fight Bot as a supporting character. I love the
Yeah, yeah.
Tamaranian as a supporting.
Punchbot.
Yeah,
Punchbot.
Punchbot. Yeah, the Tamaranian is a fantastic character as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'd love to see
for
it
sure.
continue as well. All right, we know Joshua Williamson has teased Doomsday's return. We see Superman, we see Superwoman. We know Superwoman's Lois Lane. Somehow she ends up with powers after the after absolute power. We'll see that, but yeah, Doomsday definitely returning. If we see his fist breaking through the ground there, clearly Superman and Lois not exactly excited about that, but a great Dan Mora cover. Speaking of great covers, we've got this kind of throwback cover here. Reminds me of Silver Age with all the funky ads that there used to be in comics. I'm not sure what this cover is about.
I think it's Creature Commandos, isn't it? Is that the same one?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they put it in the
Oh,
wrong
it's a
place.
Creature Commandos variant.
Oh,
It's
that's
a
what. Yeah, that's what it is. Because
yeah,
Creature Commando is supposed to be coming out. But look at this
yeah,
Dan Panosian,
yeah.
Lois Link. I'm getting that covered. There is no doubt. That is just. Oh my god.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Dan Panosian is just one of the best cover. He's one of the best artists working in comics today. There's no doubt of that. That is just awesome. And then we see one that reminiscent of crop circles, Superman flying above Kansas City. Brad Walker, another one of my favorite artists with Crypto. They're taking out some guns there. So Joshua Williamson continuing to write. We know Dan Mora is now the regular series artist. Superman and Superwoman investigate Lois Lane's new powers as they deal with the unstoppable Doomsday. But when the mysterious time trapper reveals his ultimate secret, shakes Clark and Lois and the rest of the super family to the core. So, what does Time Trapper have to do with Doomsday's return? Perhaps I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I am excited for this. I know it's had kind of mixed reception. Some people don't seem to be real happy with Lois getting powers. It's going to be temporary. I'm 100% sure of that, so I'm okay with it. And I really like Lois as a character, so I don't mind her. Different dynamic, gives a chance for a different dynamic between Clark and
Yeah.
Lois. So, and we
And
get a
I think
chance
it's
for
worth
this.
that.
Yeah, we get a chance for this awesome cover from Dan Panosian. So,
Yeah. And it's worth adding that Joshua Williamson, while he hasn't hit it out of the park on everything he's written in my mind, he's earned my trust and respect for Superman. He's entertained the hell out of me. I've really enjoyed his Superman run. He's done a really good job. He surprised me. And I acknowledge the fact that he's done his instincts on Superman have been pretty good so far. So I trust him. And while I do think Superwoman, we've seen Lois as Superwoman before, you know what? Bringing Doomsday back, Time Trapper. I got to tell you, you got my attention. So yeah, I'm enjoying. I'm looking forward to this, and the covers are fantastic. So at a minimum, it's a cover buy. But I'm confident that Williamson, especially with that Dan Mora art, it's going to be pretty damn good.
yeah, Dan Mora, man. The fact he can do super. He's drawing Superman and Justice League Unlimited every month. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Wonder Woman's continuing, written by Tom King, Daniel Sampere on art. Here we have a DNA variant cover, David Nakayama. This one here with her in the invisible plane is a really cool one as well. From I think that's David Talaski. I think is who's doing that one. So, beginning of the end for Sovereign after the loss of her great love and the birth of her child. Wonder Woman decides this is a job larger than just one hero who will assist her in ultimate quest for justice. Guess we'll find out. Like the loss of her great love, does that mean Steve Trevor's going to die? We know that
Yeah.
Trinity is an adopted daughter, not her true daughter. So yeah, a lot to unpack here. And yeah, I continue to really enjoy what Tom King is doing on Wonder Woman. I know some people have not been enjoying it as much as I have, but I've really been enjoying it. So I'm glad that they're continuing. So we'll see how it plays out.
Well, it needs to improve for me. It's been slowly becoming more and more disappointing. It started off, and I was impressed. I don't think it was ever confirmed in story that she's adopted daughter of Wonder Woman. We've read that in other solicitations, but Trinity, I guess, is going to be adopted. So that surprise has been, I think, ruined. And it's all well and good. but this suggests here the loss of her great love, which would be Steve Trevor, and the birth of her child. Well, she's not the one who would be given birth to it. It would be probably someone else, and we know who that character likely is. So, Tom King needs to really move the story forward on this. But I don't think he's interested in take. I don't think he's interested in telling a story in a timely manner because he's bragged about it. He's going to stay on this for as long as he can. So get ready for a very 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 slow drawn out tale. So this is one of the ones where I'm sort of I've I'm still collecting it because I've got every Wonder Woman issue back to 1965. So I'm a completionist. But this is one where I'm you know this isn't the top of my read pile anymore. But Daniel Semper's art's pretty damn good, so it's always worth a look.
I mean, at the very least, you could say it's better than the Clune Rat era. I know
Uh,
that's a extremely low
sure.
bar,
Well,
but
well,
yeah.
sure.
And I will, to nobody's surprise, me defending Tom King. The other thing that I think has hurt, like, we just had to have 2 issues that tied in with Absolute Power, which has slowed things down more. Even though I really enjoy issue 12 with Damian, which we'll talk about in our next DC Spotlight, but yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'm ready for it to pick up the pace a little bit.
Mm.
All right, check out that fantastic looking cover. It's Action Comics. A couple of variants there. One from Lee Bermejo, which I'm definitely gonna have to pick up. I think maybe it's not Lee Bermejo. Looks kind of like maybe not. I think that might be Ibram Mustafa. But anyway, we know Action Comics is weekly, so. Superman goes back in time. Great Row, a dying planet, desperate scientist, the last son. Can mean only one thing. Superman's going back in time to Krypton. He wants to uncover the secrets of the Phantom Zone. So he's got to journey back to the days of the birth of his planet and the lab of his father, Jor-El himself. What shocking secrets will link the greatest prison known to the cosmos and this new nefarious villain that Mark Waid's created, Ether? What is the Man of Steel? Does the Man of Steel stand a chance of making it out alive? Plus a little tease about the Supergirl backup. Supergirl's mission halts as she finds herself captured and awaiting her fate at the hands of the highest bidder. Continuing, I'll just go through all 4 and I'll give you a chance to chat about it.
Yeah.
Rocky, great Superman Lois cover there. Another one from Clayton Henry, the classic phone booth there. A lot of variants for this second issue of the month of November for Action Comics because it's issue number 1075. It looks like they're treating it as an anniversary. Again, Mark Waid, Mariko Tamaki, and we also have Joshua Williamson credited as writers, Clayton Henry, Michelle Shelfer, and Skylar Patridge. And I should mention Skylar Patridge is the one drawing the Supergirl story, so obviously her art is in 1074 as well. But for this anniversary, celebrating the original superhero series as it reaches 1075, we get the continuation of Phantoms by Mark Waid and Clayton Henry. Kal-El's traveled back in time, witnessed the burst of the Phantom Zone crafted by his own father. Father and son reconcile and save the time stream? Will Superman acquire what he needs to defeat Ether before his homeworld explodes? There's also a special Election Day story. I'm assuming that's the one written by Joshua Williamson. And then the Supergirl story from Mariko Tamaki and Skylar Patridge. Supergirl discovers there's more than meets the eye when it comes to the being she's sworn to protect. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Continuing in the third issue of the month, 1076, back to just Mark Waid and Tamaki, just the main Phantom story and the Supergirl backup. Superman's uncovered the secrets of the Phantom Zone from the clutches of his own father. I find that word clutches to be interesting. Now the real challenge begins, getting home in one piece. It's a daring dash for destiny in the latest installment of Action Comics Weekly. And Supergirl discovers the crime that started it all. Very, very vague on what's going on in the Supergirl story. And then the last weekly Action Comics of the month, again, Mark Waid and Mariko Tamaki, so just the 2 stories, the main Phantom Zone story and the Supergirl story. Death to the Phantom Zone, Superman and Mon-El. We know Mon-El to be a member of the Legion of Superheroes and to have been trapped in the Phantom Zone for a very long time. They're reunited, but are our heroes too late to stop the impossible threat of Ether? Mad Wizard has breached the realm and begun decimating planet Earth. So it's going to be up to Superman as well as the Super Family and the Justice League to try to stop that. Plus, in the backup, can Kara put her feelings aside and carry out the mission Superman gave her? So your thoughts on Action Comics Weekly for the month?
In Mark Waid, I trust. I mean, he understands Superman better than anyone. He's forgotten things about Super. Well, he he's forgotten more things about Superman than most of us will ever know. I look forward to this. The comedic side of me, in some vain attempt at comedy, I'm wondering that if Superman's going to go back in time and meet his father Jor-El on Krypton, and it's going to be a Phantom Zone shenanigans, I wonder if he's going to prevent his father from coming into the future and screwing up the timeline and leading and becoming an evil Jor-El in the future during the Bendis run to accidentally lead to his son going into Earth 3 and aging up 7 years in a volcano. But that would, I imagine that's probably not going to happen because that could actually undo the whole aging up thing for John Kent if it's done right. But that's not what that's about. That's me just, uh, being silly. But I love Mark Waid is so masterful at creating Superman lore and Superman mythology. He's aware of all the Silver Age stuff. I'm reminded of what Grant Morrison did with Wonder Woman Earth One. He read so much Wonder Woman that he incorporated all the different varying aspects of Wonder Woman into his Earth One. And Mark Waid, if he's going to be adding something to a Superman's origin or mythology, it's going to be significant, and it's not. It's going to be building on the rich history that's already there. He's someone that you can, he's someone that that he knows the history, and he knows that you're going to be able to build on what Mark Waid is doing with this Phantom Zone story. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree. Mark Waid's waited a long time for this bucket list item. Again, we talked about it at San Diego Comic-Con. Go check out the interview. I want him to add things that become a part of the mythos of Superman. I feel like he deserves that after getting this project after so many years. I was a little reluctant when I found out, oh man, it's going weekly. It's hit a little hit to the wallet or what have you. But again, like if this is because Mark Waid's getting a chance to add to the mythos of Superman, then I'm all for it. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And your point about the possibility or this has the potential to de-age John Kent. It's actually a great idea. I wouldn't go 100% and say DC wouldn't do that. I still think the odds are against it because I wouldn't want to go and undo or what have you. But yeah, it would get a lot of attention. It would get a lot of media attention. Here's what it won't do. What it won't do is bring in all those people that complained about, they ruined John Kent or whatever. A lot of those people that were complaining, they weren't reading the comics that John Kent were in anyway. And even if you de-age John Kent, they're not going to pick up the books. They just don't. They're people that like to complain on the internet, not people that actually want to read the comics. All those people that complain about Tom Taylor's John Kent books and what have you, they weren't reading it anyway. So you de-age them, they're still not going to read it. They wouldn't say anything. Would they say, "Hey, thanks for doing it"? No, they wouldn't say anything. They're there just to complain. It's just the nature of the internet. But yeah, it could happen. This is a way if DC wants to undo it. Who better than to have Mark Waid undo it? It would be interesting. I have mixed feelings because I've come to like the older John Kent, and obviously there's potential for more stories there. But potentials if they go back as well. We'll see. Okay, up next we have the Torrin Grunbeck penned Catwoman. A couple of fantastic covers here. This one especially with basically showing Selina in a bunch of different disguises is really cool. We have a Frank Cho ballpoint pen cover, which is awesome. As I mentioned, Torrin Grunbeck, the writer. Babiana Mascolo is the interior artist. I'm not familiar with their work, so we'll have to wait and see how great it is. In search of clues regarding the bounty that's been placed on her head, Selina travels to Berlin, hoping to reconnect with old accomplices from her days as roaming as an international thief. But it seems that even her cache of disguises and tricks can't protect Catwoman from the watchful eyes of those hunting her. So, again, leaning into this idea of her as an international thief and as a master of disguise, which does tie in with this cover, so that's cool. Really curious. I've read stuff from Torrin Grunbeck that I've really liked, but I haven't read a lot of her work, so we'll see how this plays out. Thoughts?
Yeah, I share your general optimism about this. It seems like Catwoman going back to her roots, being a thief. So that's what I like about Catwoman. I don't mind those stories. There's one thing about theft stories and thieves and crime noir. I mean, I could read them forever, and some of the stories might copy certain tropes and what have you, but they're always entertaining. I always seem to love them, and I love Catwoman, and I hopefully the art is always important when it comes to Catwoman. In fact, when you think about it, some artists have made their names and have become famous because of how they draw Catwoman. And it's not just the cover art, but the interior art. So I'm really curious to see how what Fabiano Mascolo brings to the table because I'm not familiar with his or her work. I'm not sure what gender Fabiana
Yeah,
is, but
just going from Spanish, typically a name that ends in A is female. I don't know if Italian's the
okay,
same.
yeah,
It would be Fabiano if it was a man, but
Fabiana. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I think it's a female, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure. So we'll have to see. Nightwing is also continuing. Again, fantastic cover there. A really cool McFarlane action figure, which has action figures that are inspired by Batman the Animated Series with Joker, Bane, Nightwing there, which looks really cool. Then kind of Mexican-inspired cover here, Day of the Dead inspired cover, and then this Dan Panosian cover, which has been making the rounds this week on Twitter. Again, he's just so fantastic. It's being written by Dan Waters. Dexter Soy handles the interior art. With a deadly experimental weapon in the hands of the city's oh-so-corrupt police force, that being the Bloodhaven Police Department, Nightwing must prevent a bloody war from breaking out with the gangs of Bloodhaven, with the gangs, I can't even talk, with the gangs of Bloodhaven, which would be easier if someone didn't keep trying to blow him up. So I'm very, very curious about Dan Waters on Nightwing. Dan himself, when we had him on most recently to talk about Destro, talked about how his stories tend to be weird. That's the word that he hears most often when his stories are described. So to have him doing a mainstream DC, maybe the most mainstream DC superhero book in Nightwing, I'm very curious to see where this goes and how Dan handles it. But he is a talented writer, so I am excited for it. What are your thoughts?
It's funny. I couldn't think of a more different writer than between Tom Taylor and Dan Waters. I mean, what an about shift. Nightwing. Taylor's going to end his run with Nightwing being at the top of his game, learning to leap again with Bloodhaven, going from being a city that's even darker than Gotham to a city that's maybe even closer to Metropolis, more hopeful, with this philanthropist, Dick Grayson, who's inherited and he's the star son of the city of Bloodhaven. And then you got when I hear that Dan Waters is going to be writing this, and then you look at the solicitation, it talks about a corrupt police force and a bloody war breaking out between gangs. It's like Dan Waters might be returning Nightwing, Bloodhaven to more of its darker roots. And frankly, I'll be honest, I'm kind of all for it. I like the hopeful stuff, but sometimes I appreciate the hope when there's a little bit of darkness to overcome. And so I'm hoping that Dan Waters is going to do that. And I know Dan Waters is very, very good at that from what we've read him in the past. So hopefully he'll be able to bring some of that, mess up Bloodhaven a little bit and challenge Dick Grayson a little bit more than Tom Taylor did.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't, to your point about the writers being very different, probably the most recent example of extremely different writers, one following the other, would be Jeremy Adams followed by Cy Spurrier on Flash.
Yes.
I had my reservations about that right from the beginning. Unfortunately, they've proven to be true. And while this is an extremely different aesthetic, I have a lot more faith in Dan Waters on Nightwing than I do with Cy Spurrier going on to the Flash. And I'm not sure why, because I think Cy Spurrier, and I've said Cy Spurrier is a very talented writer, but I don't know. I just think it's not as big of a stretch in terms of the character. For Cy Spurrier to go from his fantastic work that he's done on characters like Constantine to Constantine and Wally West are very different characters. Dan Waters going from things like Azrael and other work he's done, Jim Gordon in the Bat universe. Nightwing's still in the Bat universe, and I don't think it's as big of a stretch in terms of a change of character. So maybe that's why I have a little more faith in Dan. So we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, it could end up being terrible. Who knows? But I'm optimistic. All right. Speaking of new writers, we know Elliot Kalin is the new writer on Harley Quinn. I'm really curious to get your take on this. We see some really interesting covers. Here she's knocked the top off of a fire hydrant, which looks really, really cool, from Robin Higginbottom. Got a Daniel Nakayama cover. We've got this throwback Harley Quinn cover, which kind of looks like the cover of an old like 1960s novel or what have you. So we know Elliot Kalin is handling the writing duties. Mindy Lee is on art, and it's excuse me, kind of a long solicitation. She's in Throat Cutter Hill, wherever the heck that is. I think it's a new location that Elliot Kalin has invented. But since the dawn of humanity, we found emotional, spiritual, and even intellectual meaning through art. Sometimes art can suck real bad. It's soulless, aesthetically meritless corporate statue ruining your view of a good park full of uncollected trash and dead rats. Well, that's where I come in. Hello, I'm Harley Quinn, and I've launched my latest business venture, the Harley Quinn Destructive Agency. So basically what Harley Quinn is saying here is if you need somebody clobbered, if you need something blown up, I'll do anything I can to make Throat Cutter Hill a more dangerous place. My rates are reasonable. For a price of only $3.99, you can witness me beat the crud out of a corporate superhero. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll slap your thigh. What are you waiting for? Call your local comic store and be sure to order Harley Quinn 45 today. It's Elliot Kalin and it's Harley Quinn, and that to me sounds like a very interesting combination. This sounds like it's going to be kind of out there. So I'm curious, as a longtime Harley Quinn fan, what are your thoughts on this solicitation?
Well, just in fairness, I've become less and less of a Harley Quinn fan over the last probably 4 or 5 years, just because I'm getting real tired of the same old tropes, the same
Fair.
old comedy that isn't landing and what have you. So this will be one that it will surprise me if I like it. Reading this solicitation does nothing for me. It's the same old Harley. It's just another frivolous adventure with her being goofy, and that's just not. I like a more serious Harley. I like with less comedic take, more she's a sociopath. And so it's not. This isn't for me anymore, really. But this is exactly why I had to Google who Elliot Kalin is, and it looks like, hey, if comedy lands, I will happily laugh my ass off and be a regular reader of this. Okay, so we're gonna review it, and if it's funny and entertaining, I love a good laugh. I have a sense of humor, so if this makes me laugh, and I can fully see if. But comedy's hard to pull off in a comic book to consistently make me laugh. And sometimes when I'm laughing at some comics we review, I'm laughing and I don't think the writer intends it to be funny. So, so we'll see how this goes. But I'm certainly gonna give Mr. Kalan a chance here, and hopefully it'll be as funny as the solicitation hopes it to be.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, up next, Poison Ivy from G. Willow Wilson. Fantastic Jenny Frison cover there. Marcio Takara, the series artist from the beginning, is still in the title as well. As Batman tries to get some answers and the GCPD begins their hunt for Poison Ivy, she's attempting to uncover the truth behind the Order of the Green Knight, a violent eco-terrorist organization that's claiming that Poison Ivy is the leader of this organization. And obviously she's not. She's trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So curious what that mystery is. Also, Janet from HR and Killer Croc make some horrifying discoveries about the resurrected town of Marshville. I hope you all listened to my chat with G. Willow Wilson. It was a pleasure to meet her finally for the first time. And, she mentioned Janet for HR, which was supposed to be a throwaway 2-panel character, and now has become part of the supporting cast. I just love it that she continues to be part of the story. So, again, G. Willow just talking about Poison Ivy and how, in a lot of ways, with what's going on in the real world with climate change, Poison Ivy's profile has been elevated, and how she's trying to continue to tell good stories with the character. I think she's doing a fantastic job. I think that'll continue.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out in your interview with J. Willow Wilson was I appreciated her comments about how she was well aware and struggled with the different aspects of Poison Ivy, particularly the fact that she's an eco-terrorist to some. She's also a lover to others, and she's an LGBTQ member, and she's a hero to some, anti-hero, villain, and she had to juggle all those things. And of course, you and we said we went back and forth, debating and talking about the Poison Ivy series, but to J. Willow Wilson's credit, she navigated those waters very well, and Poison Ivy has come out of it, in fact, being both. She is I mean, still has Harley Quinn as a girlfriend. She still is kind of a badass. She still has an evil streak, and yet she still means well. So she's still struggling with that identity, which I think is seems to work well for sales. Fans have responded. I'm more of the give me my evil poison ivy, but there's enough in this series that it keeps pulling me back. That J. Willow Wilson manages to I think explore all the different shades of poison ivy in a way that entertain fans who prefer different iterations of the character, and that's very difficult to pull off. But J. Willow Wilson manages to do that, and you even see shades of that in the solicitation here, where an eco-terrorist organization is purporting to be represented by her, and she's getting involved in that. And of course, we got Janet from HR returning, which is a fan favorite character in many ways. And so, yeah, I'm going to stay on board with the series.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, up next we have Titans from writer John Layman. Again, some fantastic covers here. Art is by Pete Woods. It's a new day in the DCU. Future's bright. Why then are the Titans looking backward, reliving their most horrific and traumatic moments again and again, stuck in an endless loop? And who's the temporal tyrant behind this time-bending torment? Here's a hint: time will tell. So clearly something to do with the time-traveling villain, with Time Trapper shown up in the pages of Superman, and we know it's probably not him. So I'm really curious to see, and I'm excited to see John back writing DC Comics. I think he's super talented. I really loved his Task Force 7 issue recently. So, yeah, it does feel like we're going to be getting a Titans title that has a little more action than the Tom Taylor era did, because I think ultimately that era was a little underwhelming because it just wasn't enough action for my taste. So, thoughts?
Yeah. I gotta say, if I said before when we talked about the DC All In, when we spoke about that, I said that there's going to be a lot of. I anticipated that there was going to be some mainstream DC titles that I would be dropping as the absolute DC universe sort of grew, and this is one of the ones
Hi
where I
guys,
could tell
it's
you I
Charlie
was
from
planning on dropping
Solicitations.
Titans,
Just wanted to
and
touch base.
one of the
I
things
forget
that
my
really stood out
login
to me is
Holo
when I saw
for the
John
Safe
Layman's
Home
name, I
system.
thought, damn it, because I like his writing. Every time he writes something, we review it. I actually enjoy it. And to find out he's writing Titans number 17, I might have to continue to collect this series. It's really hard on my pocketbook, but these are the struggles these are the first world problems that we have when we love comics.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, we have a fantastic Oracle cover here for Birds of Prey from Leandro Romero, who was the original series artist. Another one here that's Serge Acuna, which is just fantastic, showing a lot of the members of the team. One here with Barda and Grace Choi, who's going to be joining the team. Again, Birds of Prey, much like the upcoming Justice League Unlimited, their roster is a little bit dependent on the mission. So it's continuing to be written by Kelly Thompson, Sami Basri on the interior art. And things have gone sideways with the Birds of Prey investigation of the Ninth Day Cult, which started last issue. And the Birds undercover operative that was infiltrating that organization, Cassandra Cain, has gone deathly silent. So the team's going to break in and break her out. We've got heavy hitters like Black Canary, Big Barda, Grace Choi, and Onyx, with Oracle at mission control, and Sin frustrated she's been left behind. So I'm really curious to see what this book is going to look like literally look like going forward with Sami Basri art, because without his art needs much brighter colors, which throughout with Jordi Belerian colors, it's been more of a muted palette with the Leonardo Fernando art to start, and I can't remember who's been on the art most recently. But Sami Basri's art really won't work with that color palette. And it's one of the things I haven't liked about the series. I feel like it's making it feel a little bit dreary. So I'm very curious to see what it's going to look like with Sami Basri art. But again, fan of Kelly Thompson, and I like the idea of a rotating team. I liked it when they did it on The Outsiders with Brian Edward Hill. I like it here. I like it on Justice League Unlimited. So, yeah, it sounds like this is going to be great. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And you make astute comments regarding the art, because I think for many people, the art it's interesting. It's divisive. I started off really liking the Gavin Goodry art, and then the Leonardo Romero's art, and now if we're going to go Sami Basri, I mean it's these are different style of arts, and the muted color palette I kind of liked it in an odd way. It grew on me. Some loved it, some hated it. You weren't much of a fan of it. Yet the series is popular. I mean, the characters are popular. Kelly Thompson's riding flying high. So heck, why not try something a little different? But one thing I think it's safe to say is that if you were reading Birds of Prey up to this point, chances are you're probably going to stick with this. And I know I am. I got some issues with. I think Kelly Thompson is having a tendency to be a little bit plot heavy in Birds of Prey. I understand there's a large cast always. I'd like some little bit more character moments and less sort of superfluous dialogue, but that might seem a little bit nitpicky with me, but the fact is, I'm still entertained by this, and I'm still on board, and it's going to hurt my pocketbook. But yes, Kelly Thompson, I'm going to be continuing with Birds of Prey.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you because again, it's a rotating cast, so getting a chance to give characterization and some screen time to characters like Grace Choi. Like if you're going to have them in the book, then do something with them, rather than just have them show up for the sake of showing up. So yeah, I do agree there. All right. Wrote an article about this earlier this week. Cassandra Cain is getting a Batgirl solo series, first time in 20 years. It is the 25th anniversary of the character. It's being written by Tate Bromwell. You can see an art germ cover there. We also have Jeff DeCall and David Talaski handling some cover work as well. Takeshi Miyazawa, who you might know from his work on Miss Marvel or Mech Cadet U over at Boom. That's the Greg Pak written series. It's I think it's in development as a cartoon. But anyway, Takeshi Miyazawa is going to be handling the interior art. Tate Bromwell is the writer. He's kind of I don't want to use the word disciple, but he writes House of Slaughter, which James Tynion. So he's worked with Tynion. Tynion, I guess I use the word mentor. So he's a mentee of Tynion. So he is talented. He has an upcoming Elseworld story, Green Lantern Dark, which sounds fantastic. So interesting. We know Cassandra Cain is the daughter of Lady Shiva. Lady Shiva is going to play a role in this series as well. So hold on to your seats, clutch your pearls. Cassandra Cain's taken center stage, first solo Batgirl series in nearly 2 decades. Deadly group of assassins have showed up to kill her. Lady Shiva comes to her rescue, puts this complicated past that they have of mother and daughter. The fact they have to work together is putting that complicated past between them. And unfortunately, things are never as they seem. Could it possibly be, and I'm totally speculating here, that Lady Shiva set it up for Cassandra to be attacked so she could come in and save the day? Is she trying to reestablish her relationship with Cassandra Cain? All that remains to be seen. But we know there's going to be jaw-dropping martial arts-filled adventure in a quest for truth, justice, and revenge. I guess we'll see as we dive into the psyche of one of Gotham's deadliest fighters, while exploring her deep and complex relationship with her mother. So I know you're a Cassandra Cain fan. I think she's your favorite Batgirl. I know you're a fan of Lady Shiva. I wouldn't go so far as to say she's my favorite Batgirl, but she's a character with so much potential. And I feel like ever since the New 52, her potential hasn't been fulfilled. But I think Cassandra Cain was a better character before the New 52, when she had her own series, exploring how she had to come out of her shell. I mean, here's somebody that couldn't even talk. She knew her language that she knew was body language, which made her one of the best fighters because she could predict what people were going to do based on their body language and what have you. That, to me, was better than what we've had with her, especially most recently in the Batgirl series with her and Stephanie Brown. That just wasn't Cassandra Cain to me. So hopefully this is going to be a return to a more familiar Cassandra Cain of an era where I really enjoyed the character. But I got to admit, I'm a little trepidatious about the art because I just feel like a manga style. A lot of times, to me, manga feels very youthful and exuberant, which can be antithetical to telling a really serious story. Now, it can portray action and fighting very, very well, but I don't know. Sometimes it feels a little juvenile to me. So we'll have to wait and see how the art, if it's to my liking or not. Which doesn't mean it's going to be a bad book. I'm worried that I might not enjoy the art, so we'll see. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I echo everything you say. I've loved Cassandra Cain forever, but she hasn't. To me, Cassandra Cain was the first diverse character before diversity was a thing. They just wrote good characters, and they didn't bother telling you, oh, by the way, she's Asian, or whatever she was. It didn't matter. She was just, a character that wasn't Caucasian. I mean, in any event, fantastic character, and the relationship between Lady Shiva and her daughter Cassandra Cain has always been extremely complicated. It's grounded in there's so many mysteries yet to explore. This is a dysfunctional relationship, but it's one that when it is explored, it people do show up for it. Even during Coonrad's Batgirl's run, the best issues for me is when Lady Shiva made an appearance for 2 issues. The Young Justice cartoon series was more interesting when Lady Shiva showed up and dealing with Cassandra Cain. I mean, even during the Deceased run, the Unkillables series, when Lady Shiva sacrificed her life for Cassandra, those were scenes I remember. Why? Because I'm a Lady Shiva fan. I'm a Cassandra Cain fan, and it's great that the writer here, Tate Bromball, purports to be a Lady Shiva and Cassandra Cain fan, and so I hope that brings that passion to it. I share your trepidation on the art, but you know what? I think I would prefer more like I'm biased toward the art as well, but if the story is good, I've looked at Takesha Miyazawa's art, and it can, I can get accustomed to it if the story's good. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, again, bit of a wait and see. All right, Batman Dark Age continues. Mark Russell, writer. Why am I drawing a blank? Mike Allred handling the art duties. Check out that amazing cover from Ian Bertram. Just fantastic.
Gorgeous.
Everything black and white, except for, I guess we're getting a Dark Age version of Harley Quinn, which might work, right? 60s, hippie, that could definitely work. Gotham appears to be saved, but for how long? A face from Gotham's past emerges from the ashes. Anti-Monitor threatens to destroy everything. Bruce Wayne looks back across the years and wonders if it was all for nothing. I don't really have much to add about this. It's great. Batman Dark Age is a fantastic series. It will continue to be a fantastic series because Mark Russell just has a perfect handle on writing this sort of alternate multiversal tale, and the Mike Allred art is perfectly suited for it. As much as I'm not the biggest Allred fan, this art works for the series. So, anything to add, Rocky?
No, really. I echo all your sentiments and the fact, and I look forward to Michael Allred's artistic rendition of a 1960s Harley Quinn. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I should correct myself. This is the Ian Bertram cover here, and this one's actually Bill Sienkiewicz, which I should have recognized that as Sienkiewicz art and his signature right there. So. Yeah. All right. Green Lantern's up next. Jeremy Adams, huge fan of this series. This looks fantastic. A little bit of a throwback cover there from Chris Somney. Zermanico continues to do the art. Hal Jordan and John Stewart mounted defense against the United Planets and the newly transformed Lord Premier Theranos, all while Star Sapphire faces an unlikely creature from her past. Very curious what that Lord Premier Theranos, is he finally getting his hands dirty? Is he finally wearing some rings himself and taking it upon himself to do his fighting instead of pulling the strings and being the puppet master behind the scenes? Really curious to see how this is all going to play out. You said earlier in Mark Waid you trust, in Jeremy Adams I trust, so I know this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and I would just add one of the things I really like what Jeremy Adams has been doing, along with Philip Kennedy Johnson, and they're sort of building up the Green Lantern story into something epic. Let's face it, villains are important, and what surprises me is when Lord Premier Theros started out, and I thought, oh, here's just the leader of the United Planets. I was very underwhelmed, but surprise, surprise, I find myself. Lord Premier Theros, is a villain with growing gravitas, growing power. I feel he's a growing threat, and because the story has earned it, he's been built up in the story, and it's just been well crafted that the Green Lanterns do look like they're genuinely struggling, that they've lost all the batteries of all the emotional spectrum have been destroyed. Lord Theros is very powerful, and I appreciate that. And Lord Theros is not Darkseid level villain here, but I'm surprised how much they've managed to build him up. In my mind, he's certainly approaching Mongol status at this point, and I think he's going to keep on getting there. So So I'm actually very interested into the villain arc for Lord Theros.
Yeah, it's a good point. All right. Up next, we have a Green Arrow series, very interesting, being written by Chris Condon, who's, to my knowledge, hasn't written before, or not much anyway. He's been an editor at DC for a long time. The art is by Montos. Emerald Archer heads back to the streets of Star City for his next adventure. Brand new team of Chris Condon and Montos, as I mentioned. The cold-blooded murder of a Star City businessman announces the arrival of a horrifying and mysterious serial killer. When details of the victim's dark business dealings emerge, Green Arrow must confront the hard truths from the city's past and race to stop the murder before they strike again. Definitely feels like a much more simple tale. It's not Green Arrow family here. It's just focusing on Oliver Queen. So this must have you excited, Rocky.
Yes.
And also curious. It's a fantastic cover from Torrin Clark here, but we don't get any of the variants. So I don't know. Maybe they haven't been finished yet. But I'm looking forward to this. Although it does kind of put aside my at least speculation that perhaps Connor Hawke was going to be the Green Arrow, coming out of Absolute Power with Oliver Queen having, I won't say betrayed, but been on the side of Amanda Waller. Yeah. Not that he's necessarily betrayed the heroes. But yeah, apparently, I guess everything's okay between him and the other heroes. Or maybe not. Maybe that's why he's off by himself. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe we're going to get the best of both worlds. So that way, if for those fans who like the Green Arrow family, you can have Connor Hawke and the Green Arrow family and Oliver Queen can forever be sort of like the black sheep of the family who shows up every now and then and apologizes for whatever the hell he did wrong this time. And I like it that way. Oliver Queen, to me, Oliver Queen, I like back in the day where he was sort of like a lone hero, just like the Question was. I mean, they're solitary heroes. They can work with others, but they shine when they're alone. And that's how I was like the lone archer. That's kind of how I like this. Now, this is only a solicitation. Maybe the family is in it, but I like what again, it's another one of those things I'll have to check it out. I'm unfamiliar with Chris Condon, the writer, but how Chris Condon, a relatively inexperienced writer, to my knowledge, how he got Montos, who's a fantastic artist, he definitely. If there were drawn straws for the best artist, Montos has got to be near the top of the list. His art's fantastic in Green Lantern War Journal. So he's very fine line and detailed. So that's for that reason alone, Montos is more of a draw for me for this 18th issue of Green Arrow, more so than Chris Condon is.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Seeing Montos do street level stuff, very curious how that's going to look. Cy Spurrier's continuing on The Flash. Interesting pinball cover here. Got another one with Wally eating a bunch of noodles from Oscar Yildirim, who I'm not familiar with. But Vasco Gregov is handling the interior art. As the Flash moves between his new role in the Watchtower and the family vacation, he comes across an old foe in a surprising place. Ari West has a hunch her father's sneaking off during the trip, and she's going to find out what he's up to. So it feels like it's continuing the family feel of Flash that Jeremy Adams had. And it sounds like the crazy Cy Spurrier multiversal stillness story with the arc angles is done, thank God. So I'm very curious what the feel of Flash is going to be like with Cy Spurrier now that confusing, sort of indecipherable, very inscrutable story is done. Maybe this is maybe I'm going to do a complete 80 on my opinion of Cy Spurrier on the Flash. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I feel completely misled. I'm a little bit frustrated because I actually feel that Cy Spurrier, and this is unfair to Cy Spurrier, I'm going to say up front, but I've been relatively confused with his Flash run that it feels that he hasn't captured the voices of Wally West very well, Linda Lesfer. I mean, Barry Allen's mind was taken over. Wally's mind was taken over by the various cosmological forces. So I'm not even sure if Cy Spurrier actually knows the voices of the characters very well, because all of them seemed at different points of time, they weren't themselves in his main story proper. And it was confusing. And then he aged up the kids by his own admission. He said that in interviews he was given permission to age up Jay and Irie for his story, which was, again, fire the editor for that decision. But in any event, so Cy Spurrier, we know he's a great writer because we've been enjoying his Hellraiser run. Maybe this will be good if he just goes back and focuses his story on a good family run. But I got to tell you, I'm kind of resentful that I'm going to give this series another chance because I had sort of taken it off my pull list. But now it sounds like it's a family tale again, and he's going to try to do his best Jeremy Adams impression. But if it is a good enough one, I'm a sucker. I'll jump on board. I'm easy prey when it comes to this stuff. I tell you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Here we are with Batman and Robin. Philip Kennedy Johnson is taking over as the regular series writer as of the previous issue 14. Javier Fernandez on art. I think it's a great choice. I didn't necessarily mention this last time. Philip has a very close relationship with his own son, so being that Joshua Williamson, the previous writer, focused on that relationship, I think it's a natural choice. What should have been a run-of-the-mill charity banquet for Bruce and Damian has literally gone up in flames. Now they don't have their costumes, they don't have their gadgets, and they got to fight for their lives against a mysterious specter known only as Memento. So how that's all going to play out, again, we don't really see Memento here, unless in this first cover that I showed, this is him in the background there. It almost looks like Gentleman Ghost in a lot of ways. So yeah, I expect this to be good. Philip is a very talented writer, and I'm curious to how this is going to play out for father and son, Batman and Robin.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Philip Kennedy Johnson, the one plot point in his Green Lantern War Journal run is the relationship between Ellie and John's mother, and it was so emotional, and it actually brought a tear to my eye in the. It's not even over yet, but in various parts of that arc, and so I know that he's really good at drawing out, at getting into deep character moments and drawing out emotions. Now, I'm not saying that PKJ here. I'm reading the story, the plot, the solicitation here. It doesn't sound like it's necessarily going to be a sad story, but my point is he's very good at character work when that's what his focus is, and he's good at crafting a plot line around great character moments. And I mean, it's hard to think of two better characters to work your magic on if you have the narrative skills that he has than Batman and Robin, Bruce Wayne and Damian. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. All right, up next we have Batman Brave and the Bold, multiple stories here. Or, I'm sorry, Batman Robin Year 1, number 2, actually. Written by Mark Waid. Chris Samnee is the artist. Don't have a whole lot to mention about this, although that's a fantastic Kevin Nolan cover right there. Again, go listen to my interview with Mark. He talked about the push-pull, the dynamic between Batman, who is used to working solo, previous to getting his first sidekick in Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson being somebody who was an acrobat who's always trained to be part of a team. And I'm really looking forward to this.
Mark Waid seems to be, he's like the kid in the candy store right now, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, but yet it's almost like he's a bull, but he's tiptoeing around, the china. He's being very delicate with the china in the china shop. He's not breaking anything, but he's moving it around and he's making it more interesting. And he's having a lot of fun here. And he is actually sort of reinterpreting and reimagining slowly, gradually, key aspects of various heroes of the DC universe. It's like Mark Waid seems to be making up for all the lost time that he couldn't work at DC because of Dan Didio.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's good stuff.
Yeah, and again, he mentioned to me how it's been great going back and working with Chris Samnee, how they fell back into their old rapport, and this was a project that Chris Samnee brought to him. It's a dream project for Samnee, so Samnee's going to be given his all. All right, up next we have, look at that cover with the Batman. That's a Todd McFarlane Toys Batman Superman fusion toy from the Batman Brave and the Bold a few years ago. So this is World's Finest, also written by Mark Waid with new artist Adrian Gutierrez, which I'm not a fan of his ink splatter that he does, and the timeless feel of Brave and the Bold really needs a clean art style, so I'm going to be curious. Hopefully Gutierrez just gets rid of that ink splatter, and I think his art can work. But this is continuing the Eclipso story that stopped last issue, which has brought the Justice League to the brink of a civil war. And the very power source that allows Superman to race faster than a speeding bullet, it's a battle for Earth's yellow sun, which, with Eclipso as the villain, this idea of fighting for the sun, I'm sure Eclipso is trying to darken the sun, makes a lot of sense. And it just, from what I know of the story, it feels like it's, perfectly suited for the timeless feel that Mark Waid's Batman Superman stories have had so far. So I expect this, regardless of the artist, to be really, really great.
Yeah, yeah. The plot, the synopsis sounds right up my alley. Right up. It sounds like a world's finest sort of plot line. So yeah, no, it's good. It can, world's finest it's a prime example here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let Mark Waid continue to do what he's always done with world's finest.
Yeah, such a fantastic cover. I didn't even know that there was an action figure of this Batman Superman fusion. I might have to try to get my hands on that. Looks so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, we have Batman Brave and the Bold, Zach Thompson, Rich Dewick, Dave Wilgause, and Michael Conrad handling various stories. We've got a Wonder Woman Lasso of Truth stolen story. She recruits Plastic Man to help her. There's a Mr. Zaz story. And we've got Batman teaming up with an unlikely ally for a supernatural trip through Gotham's darkest shadows. So I was kind of looking for clues to see who that ally might be. And didn't really see anything in any of these covers, so not sure who that might be. But Wonder Woman Plastic Man sounds fun. But, something that you said that stuck with me when we talked about the last issue of Brave and the Bold, you can think back to the classic Batman Brave and the Bold where it was Batman teaming up with somebody. This Brave and the Bold is not that. It's an anthology series, and I kind of wish they'd go back. First of all, I just don't even think it needs to exist. You don't need another Batman title. But if you are going to have Batman Brave and the Bold, it should be Batman teaming up with somebody. But again, that's just my own personal bias. So,
yeah, I'll just add that the cover with Plastic Man and Wonder Woman by who's that artist?
Riley Rosmo.
Riley Rosmo, yeah, I got to give Riley Rosmo a shout out because I've been critical of his art sometimes, but I love that cover with fantastic. Wonder Woman holding Plastic Man, and he's in the form of a shield, and the other parts of him are wrapped around the earth around it. I mean, that is a really well drawn and crafted cover. That's gorgeous. The perspective, everything, and just the depth of it, it's awesome. I that's a must buy for me. I gotta make sure I get that. My luck, it's probably a variant, and I'll be spending more money in November. Thanks, DC.
It does not say that it's a ratio, so you might be in luck. All right, Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, which is a sequel to the Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale Batman: The Long Halloween 13-issue series. As its third issue, Loeb returns for writing. It says art by Mark Chiarello, which Mark Chiarello is an art director. I don't think he's necessarily an artist himself, but I guess we'll see. I know a lot of people are contributing to this in terms of artists because Tim Sale was beloved by a lot of people in the industry. And I think there's also some unseen Tim Sale art that's going to be in this as well. So I'm sure it's going to do really well. Batman: The Long Halloween is an evergreen title for DC. Don't really have too much else to add other than that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. No, not much to add. I'm going to be picking this up along with everyone else who's ever read a comic under the sun. I mean, why not? The covers look fantastic, and yeah, I mean, Tim Sale, we lost a legend, and it's great to see him honored in such a way with such what I expect to be high quality work.
Yeah, agreed. We also have the 6th issue of Batman 89 Echoes, written by Sam Hamm, Joe Quinones and Paulo Rivera handling art and covers. I gotta admit, having lost interest in this series, it started off, it was really exciting and great, but it's delayed and delayed and delayed, and I kind of don't care. It's lost all its momentum. But it's set in the world of the Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman. We've got a Harley Quinn. We've got a Bruce Wayne who's undercover in Arkham Asylum. This is the final issue. Maybe I'll read it all, together, all 6 issues once this final one comes out, to get a better sense of the story, but I've lost excitement for the series. It's just taken too long, too many delays.
Yeah, although the Purian fanboy in me, I got to admit, I'll never forget artist Joe Quinones's Harley Quinn Batman Echoes 99. His Harley Quinn rendering is gorgeous. I think she's sexy as hell. One of my favorite renditions of the character, and I am actually curious to see how it ends. Because this is, it is Bruce Wayne focused. It's Batman focused. Bruce Wayne really undercover. So I am curious to see how it ends, albeit I will have to refresh my memory on more of the major plot points.
Yeah, exactly. I got to go back and reread the previous issue. Anyway, Black Lightning, another new title, spinning out of Absolute Power. This one, being written by Brandon Thomas, with art by Fico Ossio. Now, we loved Fico Ossio when he worked with the other Brandon Easton, on the Mr. Miracle series.
Yeah.
The Shiloh Norman Mr. Miracle series, Fico Ossio really impressed us there. So I expect his art to be excellent here as well. Black Knight back, it's a family affair. Jefferson Pierce is leading the Justice League's new metahuman outreach initiative. Again, leaning into that idea that some people after Absolute Power that didn't have powers before Absolute Power got them, or people that had their powers returned are not working the way that they were working before. And that includes Black Lightning's own daughter, Anissa Pierce, who comes to him for help because she's got dangerous new power levels. And there's a new Masters of Disaster jeopardizing the coexistence between humans and metas, which is also an interesting aspect spinning out of Absolute Power. We know the distrust ahead of time, which helped Amanda Waller do the things that she's doing currently in Absolute Power because of that distrust. It was one of the things I asked Mark Waid when I had him on a few times ago about the state of the DCU after, specifically in terms of will that trust be developed? And he was very forthright. He's like, listen, there's a certain classic aspect of the DC universe where you just have to have that inherent trust, but it may take a little bit to get there. Sounds like this series is going to be exploring that, so I'm really excited for it. And Brandon Thomas is a very talented writer, so I think he's a great choice for that. But Black Lightning's out there on the front lines of this culture war that's brewing in the suburbs of Metropolis. So really excited for this. And I think the art's going to be fantastic with Fico Ossio on it. So what are your thoughts on it?
It's been a while since we read anything by Brandon Thomas, but I love Fico Ossio's art's fantastic, and Black Lightning. I've always liked Black Lightning. We don't see enough Black Lightning. I like what I'm reading. I don't mind. I really appreciate Mark Waid's comments that he said to you about, well, you don't want to have the DC universe be filled with distrust of heroes where we suddenly turn in like where it's a glorified quasi X-Men universe or some such nonsense. It's the DC universe. It's a different feel, and I respect that he said that. But it's okay to test the boundaries a little bit. And so I like that. So if to have Black Lightning at the forefront of maybe some distrust between humans and metahumans, particularly given the fallout that's going to come out of Absolute Power, it makes sense, and hopefully it will make for a good story. We'll see what Brandon Thomas can give us.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas excels at character dynamics. Go back and read his Future State Aquaman series with Jackson Hyde and Andy Curry. It was fantastic, and they're not even necessarily related. You could say they're stepbrother and sister at best. Here we got Black Lightning and his kids, so they are related. That adds an extra layer. Thomas is a perfect person. And again, his characterization of Jackson Hyde, who, certainly more of a B or C list character. And even though Black Lightning's been around for much longer, he's not top tier either. So I'm really glad to have Brandon Thomas on this because I feel he has the skills to elevate Jefferson Pierce. So, I'm really excited for this series. Another one that a lot of people are excited for, announced at San Diego Comic-Con, JSA is coming back, this time in the hands of Jeff Lemire. We have Diego Orlatuga as the artist. We most recently saw his work on the Jay Garrick Flash series that Jeremy Adams did. Very dynamic artwork, so I think it'll work if this is going to be a high-octane, fast-paced series, and I sort of expect that it will be from Jeff Lemire. As far as who's on the team, we have Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Jade, Obsidian, Jesse Quick, Hourman, Ted Grant, Wildcat, and Sandman. And we also know that they're going to be going up against a new Injustice Society of America. So I'm really excited for this. I think Jeff Lemire, it's been a while since he's worked on traditional superhero comics, other than maybe his Black Hammer work over at Dark Horse. So it's great to see him return to the pages of DC Comics. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree. It's been much too long. And isn't it going to be nice to have a JSA comic that we get on a monthly basis instead of having to wait 6 months in between? Jeff Johns. I love you, Jeff Johns, but man, those delays were killing me. And it doesn't matter. I'm enjoying Jeff Johns over in his with his own line of comics over there. But no, this is Jeff Lemire. He wrote Justice League. Actually, Justice League Canada. He did an issue of Justice League Canada back in 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. So he's written Justice League International before, and so Jeff Lemire is familiar. He's good at actually writing many like team characters. He's good at team dynamics, and he's getting his feet wet again doing that. So I'm looking forward to this. And it has all the characters that I know and love, reminiscent of Infinity Incorporated, All Star Squadron. And he's really good at incorporating and looking at characters in new ways. He's really good at character arcs, character dynamics, as his independent work shows as well. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. All right, up next we have the Black Canary series that's recently been announced. Black Canary, Best of the Best #1, written by Tom King. Ryan Sook is handling the interior art. First time Ryan Sook did interiors in a long time. It's going to be fantastic. We've got some wraparound covers by Otto Schmidt. We've got Dan Hipp doing a cover. I guess Black Canary's sick. She's drinking tea, lemon and honey. Kind of weird. Also, this David Nakayama cover with her screaming is really fantastic. And then that final Chrissy Zulo variant is cool as well. But it's Black Canary versus Lady Shiva to determine the single greatest hand-to-hand fighter in the DC universe. Already people have been arguing, how's Black Canary even in her in the same league as Lady Shiva? It doesn't seem correct. I assumed incorrectly that this was going to be a Black Label series because DC went out of their way to say it wasn't part of the All In initiative. But that being said, Tom King's come out and said it's kind of like Super Girl Woman of Tomorrow, in that it's sort of a self-contained story that does still exist in the main continuity, but it just doesn't tie into anything currently going on in the main continuity. So I don't know. In a way, that might make people a little more critical of it. If Black Canary is able to defeat Lady Shiva, and they're going to go, no, that's not right. You shouldn't be able to defeat Lady Shiva, whatever. We know that Black Canary is going to be going around asking for training from certain people, Ted Grant, Batman, Richard Dragon, others who are great hand-to-hand combatants, in order to defeat Lady Shiva. At the end of the day, I don't really care who wins the fight. I just want a good story. I go back to something Stan Lee used to say all the time. He used to talk about how people would come up all the time and say, who would win in a fight between Hulk and Thor or Hulk and Thing or whomever? And his answer would be, whoever the writer needs to win the fight for the purpose of the story. It's the same thing here. It doesn't, if you love Lady Shiva and think she's the best and Black Canary happens to beat her in this particular fight, doesn't mean Black Canary's going to win the next time. Doesn't matter. Let's just get a good story with Ryan Sook handling the art. I expect gorgeous artwork, so I am excited for this.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd remind people, Tim Drake, when Tim Drake trained to be a better Robin, Lady Shiva helped him out. When Batman came back after his back was broken, who helped him on his path back with his muscle memory? It was Lady Shiva. Who helped the Question? It was Lady Shiva. I mean, Lady Shiva is a character that is grounded in many ways in mystery outside her classical origin with in the pages of Richard Dragon, and and of course she's got her daughter Cassandra Cain. Her Cassandra Cain's father was David Cain. That was in the classic Batgirl series. And we're getting a lot of Lady Shiva goodness. Lady Shiva is going to be in the pages of Batgirl and her own series that's going to be coming out in November. And look, of course this is going to elevate Black Canary, as it bloody well should. If you last one round with Lady Shiva, even if it ends in a draw, who knows what Tom King's going to do? Frankly, it doesn't matter what Tom King's going to do. Why? Because Tom King is a divisive writer, and whichever way you go with his writing, regardless of whether Black Canary wins or loses or there's a draw, Lady Shiva, I'm sure, is going to keep her status and is going to remain elevated. In Black Canary, at a minimum, they're going to be rivals of each other. And I think there's going to be a little bit of quid pro quo. Because I do remember that Lady Shiva took on Richard Dragon in Chuck Dixon's Richard Dragon series. And Richard Dragon had an opportunity to defeat Lady Shiva and chose not to for different reasons that I won't go into. And Lady Shiva ended up killing him with the leopard blow, maintaining her status. But again, there's always ways that a writer can respect both characters while at the same time giving us a good story. I'm hopeful that Tom King can do that. But, look, I love most of Tom King's stuff, but I got no problem being critical if it rubs me the wrong way. And I'm a Lady Shiva fan, so I'm really curious to see how this is going to go.
Yeah, and this Otto Schmidt wraparound cover with I don't know, 100 different versions of Black Canary is freaking awesome, man.
Amazing.
Definitely got to get my hands on that. All right, this might be the new title that I'm most excited for. All Along the Watchtower, The Question, from writer Alex Segura. Cian Tormey is the artist. This is Alex Segura's favorite DC character. him writing Renee Montoya the Question. I couldn't be more excited. It's a murder mystery. The murder has taken place on the Watchtower, the newly returned Justice League satellite. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman recruit Renee Montoya to go up to solve the murder, which then I think probably leads into her becoming the security officer, which Mark Waid, as a, sort of a throwaway comment, mentioned when I talked to him, that the Watchtower has Renee Montoya as a security officer, which I just think is really cool. What a great role for her. I think it's awesome. Fantastic Cian Tormey cover here. We've got another by Danny Earls, Jorge Fornes, and then this gorgeous Perillo cover, which is just awesome. This painted cover from Lucio Pereira. I'm just really excited for this. I'm excited for this because Alex Segura himself is excited for this. So I'm expecting it to be really awesome. It mentions an abrupt end to her time in Gotham, which, I mentioned this in the article I wrote. I'm not sure exactly on the timing of that because over in Detective Comics, she still is the commissioner of the Gotham City Police Department, as opposed to in Zdarsky's run. She's been removed, and Vandal Savage is the police commissioner. But I'm not exactly sure what's meant by that abrupt end. Hopefully we get a little bit of an explanation at the beginning to kind of set the stage for where Renee Montoya is. But most recently, Montoya has showed up more as Montoya in the pages of DC Comics than The Question. I love that this is going to focus on her Question persona, and I think she can be elevated both as Renee Montoya and The Question. And Alex Segura is a great choice to do that. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Renee Montoya is arguably one of the best developed characters that a surprising number of people haven't read. They've saw her in cartoons and they've seen her occasionally, maybe in Batman. But I mean, if you haven't read like the Blue Wall that we read, and you haven't read Gotham Central, this is an amazingly well developed character. And what I love about her being in this series all along the Watchtower, what I love about that is that what a perfect choice for a security officer for Justice League, for the Justice League Unlimited, because this is a character that's so well established and she's so well grounded. She grounds all these. She's the most human out of everyone on the Justice League satellite, and to have all those metahumans up there, to have her as a security officer, I think it's just an excellent choice to sort of juxtapose and be a foil to the metahumans and these powerful mythological godlike beings that are superheroes on the satellite. I think it's an excellent choice, and the fact that she's the one doing the investigation for whatever this murder mystery is, I think this is this is an easy buy for me, and because we know she's so talented and she's so flawed. She's such a ridiculously flawed character, and bad things happen to her. I hate to say it, but they do in her personal life, and how that carries in often finds its way leaking into the stories, which enhance it in so many ways. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited for it. All right, Shazam is continuing with Josie Campbell as the writer. We've got Gleb Melnikoff cover. We've got an Ariel Olivetta cover. We've got a David LaFuente cover, although that's not the final art. Dan McDade, fresh off of Kneel Before Zod, is taking over the interiors for this book. Christmas has come early for Freddie Freeman. All its success and notoriety as Philly's top superhero. Ill-gotten gains. We've got Mary and Billy trying to figure out what's behind Mary's rise in popularity. Does it have anything to do with Dr. Savannah recently showing up? As Billy continues to leak magic, and that is a continuing story arc from before DC All In. So curious, Josie Campbell playing the long game there. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't know if I appreciate Josie Campbell playing the long game. I'm not. I just wish I was more excited for it. I feel I should be more excited for this because the concept's really cool. The idea of a sort of a conflict between Billy Batson and his Captain Marvel persona, and I should be more exciting, but I still haven't quite got a handle on how they can be separate, and where's Captain Marvel when Billy's Billy Batson, and where's that? I still haven't figured out how that dichotomy actually works, what the rules are for that. It hasn't been clearly explained yet. Maybe I just got to reread it, but I got more questions than I have answers. But clearly Josie Campbell has a game plan here, and well, we're going to be checking out to see where it is. But I don't think this is hitting as well as it could, because I feel that there's something missing in this comic to really grab me, but hopefully that will change moving forward.
Yeah, it's a kind of a wait and see for me as well. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Power Girl coming up with a new hero, supposedly hero in Gotham City. Ejecta, we see her there in this Yannick Paquette cover. There's a gorgeous Tiago da Silva cover, and then a Jeff DeCall cover. Still being written by Leah Williams, Adriana Mello handling the interior art. And as I mentioned, Ejecta here as a new character with her best friend fighting for her life in the hospital. Power Girl swears vengeance on the one who put her there, Ejecta. There's something strange about Metropolis's newest super with the power to predict crimes before they happen. Could it be that someone more powerful is pulling her strings? So this to me sounds a little bit more like a traditional Power Girl story, much more so than what we've gotten so far. So I can only hope that Power Girl becomes a little more interesting as a series, because I think the word that we both used when we reviewed the last issue was it's become boring. And so this definitely sounds like it's got a bit more action and a bit more excitement.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And Ejecta looks sexy. And, I want the sexiness. And I note that art by Adriana Mello. She's capable of drawing very sexy characters. So I like that. I'm a Purian fanboy, and this should be a Purian fanboy comic. You can have all the, you can, obviously it's a powerful woman, and you want to have her to be a strong, formidable woman, but you also want some sexiness there and action. And reading this synopsis, it looks like we're going to be getting it, and so I kind of like that. I like to see Power Girl a little bit pissed off and get into some fisticuffs with a, let's have some fun with that. I remember fondly that Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner had Power Girl go up against a character called Terra, and it was a lot of fun and humor and everything else, and but it also had some serious sides. So I'm hopeful that this will be pretty damn good. And I love those variant covers. That Jeff DeCall cover is incredible.
Yeah, definitely agree. All right, up next in the solicitations, DC versus the Multiverse, Multiverses Collision Detected is the official name of the book. Multiverses is a fighting game that has a bunch of different Warner Brothers properties. I think it's free. So if you're so inclined, if you're checking it out, you can be reading this. I did pause as I was speeding through, because this is not stuff that we typically cover. I did pause at this cover because I looked at how amazing. I was like, that art's familiar. Oh my God, that's Kenneth Roquefort. Kenneth Roquefort drawing Harley Quinn, Bugs Bunny, Scooby-Doo, and Shaggy all on the same cover. Wow, is that just an amazing, amazing cover. So yeah, if you're so inclined, if you enjoy the fighting game, definitely a way to create new readers, I suppose. There's also a DC horror anthology coming out called DC Horror Presents. Latoya Morgan and Aaron Saggers on this with various artists. Again, if you're so inclined. Then we've got the Creature Commandos. Again, it's outside of DC, but Brainiac showing up on the cover there. Excuse me. Clearly the villain. And that cover we saw elsewhere, I think it was misplaced because we see it here. It's going to be written by David Dasmalchian, who played the Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad movie. Jesus Hervis on art. So again, if you're so inclined. Then something we actually have talked about in the past, this recent animated series that did very well, New Adventures with Superman, is up to issue 6. Josie Campbell, Pablo M. Collar on art. I do recommend that. It is sort of the holiday episode, as Josie Campbell told us when she was on, because they didn't have time to do a holiday episode before the second season started. So that's coming out in November as well. And then a celebration of the Penguin with the Penguin special, because it may have been delayed. I'm not 100% because I'm not up on DC movie TV news, but we do know that there is, I think it's coming out on Max, a Penguin series starring Colin Farrell, who's reprising his role as the Penguin like he did in the Batman movie that was directed and written by Matt Reeves. So if you're going to have a Penguin TV show coming out, you're going to want a Penguin comic. It's part of the reason DC had Tom King recently do a Penguin comic. This ties in even more directly for people that want to learn more about the Penguin with this special, because it's going to reprint the Penguin's first appearance from 1941 by reprinting Detective Comics 58. There's also a few other reprints, such as Secret Origin Special #1, Joker Asylum's Penguin #1, and then a brand new story written for this special by Jeremy Adams with art by Howard Porter. Jeremy Adams writing the Penguin, Jeremy Adams writing the villain for the first time. Very curious what that is going to look like. and that is also a fantastic cover that we see there. It looks like Mikkel Yanin. Yeah, Mikkel Yanin on art there. So any thoughts on Jeremy Adams writing a Penguin story?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the price point is not bad. $5.99. You get 64 pages, and you get some pretty good classic Joker stories, man. Secret Origins Special #1, Joker Asylum Penguin #1, Detectives Comics 58. That's all pretty cool. Plus Jeremy Adams story. This is really good. It's nice to see them sort of. It always likes. It's always nice to see some synchronicity between the comic books and maybe an HBO promotion, or I guess, or pardon me, Warner Brothers Max with their Penguin series. So that's really good to see. And it's Jeremy Adams, and we're just coming off a Tom King finished his Penguin run. So for Penguin fans, we're getting a number of different iterations of Penguins. So there's a lot of Penguin love out there.
Yeah, a lot of Penguin love. All right, this got announced this week as well. Last year, leading up to Christmas, we had a weekly series with the Justice League teaming up with Santa Claus. We're getting a sequel to that with some, again, fantastic covers. I think this first one is, I think it's Dan Mora on the main cover there. We've got Santa Claus looking very sexy. No, this is the Dan Mora. Sorry, this one's the Dan Mora cover. And Dan Hip does a DC wrapping paper one, main cover by Bernard Chang. That first cover is by Bernard Chang. I should have recognized that. Yeah, fantastic. But anyway, Batman Santa Claus, Silent Night returns. Jeff Parker's returning as the writer, just like he wrote last year's weekly holiday series. This time, Lucas Kittner's handling the interior art, although there are going to be some pages drawn by Michelle Bandini. Michelle Bandini was the artist who did last year's holiday weekly series, so he's returning as well. And this just sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like the Justice League all gets captured. At the last minute, Batman's able to help Damian escape and not be captured. So Damian goes and recruits Zatanna, as well as Santa Claus himself, to try to go save the Justice League against a powerful foe, the Silent Night. So yeah, if last year's holiday weekly series is any indication, it was a great mashup of kind of a holiday feel and holiday spirit with DC superheroes. Jeff Parker's returning. I think this will be more of the same. I'm really looking forward to it. So what are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. I agree. Dan Mora, I got his, he did he did the Claus series with Grant Morrison, and I got the Kickstarter hardcover, beautiful slipcase of that. So Dan Mora and any rendering of Santa Claus by Dan Mora and throwing DC comic superheroes, I mean, count me in.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. All right, we've got the Kryptonian Age continuing here with issue number 6. Andy Diggle on the writing duties. Art by Leandro Fernandez. As threats from the past resurface in the present, Batman must work along strange new heroes. So again, we've talked about the epicness of the story and how it seems like Andy Diggle's building up a version of the Justice League in this world. This time, Batman's got to team up with a still-hearted sheriff from Smallville, Kansas, which, I mean, that certainly looks like Superman to me. Certainly looks like Clark Kent there to me, taking off his glasses. So Clark Kent as the sheriff of Smallville, pretty interesting. So I'm very excited to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's Andy Diggle is doing really great at world building in that series. And is that the last is that the last issue? I thought it was 12 issues.
It doesn't say it's the last issue.
Yeah, good, because I hope it isn't. It is. It says 6 of 6.
Oh, you're right. It does.
That really disappoints me. It says the age of heroes justice has only just begun. Well, I hope to hell, I hope to hell we get more, because there's no way they're going to be. I can't imagine they dealt with the doom of Krypton in only 6 issues. But because I'm a huge fan of that series.
They're probably just. If I had to guess, they're probably dividing it up into 2 6 issues. That way they can do another number 1.
Yeah, maybe
would be my guess. But, yeah. So, speaking of Elseworlds, we have All Winter. Look at this cover. Look at this cover with the All Winter version of Rose Wilson, Ravager by Omer. I'm not familiar with their art, but oh my God, that's just a gorgeous cover.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. So continues to be written by Jay Kristoff and Tom Taylor. Arts by Terso and Riccardo Federici on the interiors. It's issue number 5. Slade finds himself wrenched from the jaws of icy death by the only thing worse than a sworn enemy, an old friend who knows his greatest shame and darkest secrets. So, I mean, this will continue to be fantastic. I do wish it was in color, though, I got to admit. But man, those are some fantastic covers.
Yeah, Tom Taylor's top of his game here, and it's nice to see him co-writing with a guy by the name of Jay Kristoff. I'm not Jay. Any sort of advice, and if any influence you get from Tom Taylor, that's great. I've been another series I've enjoyed. I think we read the first. We read the first, reviewed the first issue already, I
Yeah.
think,
Yep.
and I'm definitely in. So yeah, looking forward to see where this series takes us.
We also have another Elseworlds Tale, the DC versus Vampires. Again, some fantastic covers there. I mean, where has the Spectre been in terms of fighting against these vampires? So that Otto Schmidt cover there, just fantastic. Here's another by this artist again who I hadn't heard of until this solicitation catalog. Another by Omer here, this time of the vampire version of Wonder Woman. Wow, is all I can say. She is just looking gorgeous.
She can bite me anytime.
Yeah, right. Just man, what a cover. So again, it continues to be written by Matthew Rosenberg. This time he's joined by Matthew Manning. Art by Otto Schmidt. Matthew was on this last week to talk about DC versus Vampires. Just a fantastic story. So we've got Gorilla Grodd and Aquaman have a little luck in capturing Damian Wayne. A mysterious figure arrives bearing whispered prophecy that could turn the tide of the war in their favor, in favor of the vampires. Meanwhile, we've got Constantine as the human resistance last hope. I don't think that bodes well when Constantine's your last hope. Enter the Spectre to help guide his way. So if anybody can help turn the tide, it would be the Spectre. Again, I have to ask the question, where's he been all this time? And in the shadows, new Batman, which we saw show up in the first issue. What's his connection to Bruce Wayne? Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this?
Again, DC Vampires is another one of those Elseworld stories that I've been enjoying it. Hearing Constantine showing up is interesting. I'm glad that they haven't spoiled in the solicitations who the new Batman is. I was almost afraid to read the solicitations because I didn't want that to be ruined. That's a surprise. I want to be surprised by that. We see Sinestro as a Green Lantern showing up. That's kind of a spoiler on the one cover. So it's kind of cool to see him. So it's nice to see Matthew Rosenberg. He clearly still has surprises in store for us, and hopefully the solicitations won't give all of them away.
Yeah, agreed. All right, we've got a Shadow Cabinet series coming. Shadow Cabinet being an old school Milestone series from back when. Joseph P. Illich, who was an editor for Milestone, is actually the writer on this. Art by Daryl Banks, who most people know his Green Lantern work, and Ataguen Ilhan, who's done some previous in a most recent return of Milestone, has done some work. So curious how this all plays out. It's been a while since we've had any Milestone stories. 6 months since Brainiac's incursion into the Milestone universe. Looks like Dr. Edison Alva's gone missing. Icon's on a mission in deep space. Rocket is sort of taken over as the protector of the Dakota universe, and she's being recruited by this Shadow Cabinet, this mysterious cabal of powerful individuals who've been saving the world from Dr. Alva's sister, actually, who wants to prove herself more evil than Dr. Alva. So I don't know what to think about this. Shadow Cabinet was okay. It was one of the later series in Milestone. It sounds like they're jumping ahead in terms of the Milestone timeline. Not sure. Maybe they're just anxious to get to some big crossover or whatever. But I feel like there should be at least one Milestone book coming out each month to kind of keep us invested in that universe rather than just putting it out in fits and starts. But I guess we'll see based on the quality of the story.
That's too bad because you and I think we've been we've reviewed every Milestone that's come out. We've reviewed it, and there's been it's had some pacing issues, and it's had some, I think, some of the stories have been a little wonky, but for the most part we've been following it. It's been entertaining enough, but you're right, it's way too long between issues, and we can't even accuse it of being delayed because there's no actual issue to issue anymore. But we're in the middle of a story, but we're just getting one shots or like just little vignette stories here and there and scattershot across anthologies. And it's unfortunate because there's a story here to tell with these characters. So hopefully they can nail down some consistency there because it's like they're taking their cue from Jeff Johns.
Yeah, unfortunately so. All right, check out this fantastic Plastic Man cover. His face is stained glass. The carpet is
fantastic cover.
Supposedly he's dead, I guess. We'll see. Just amazing. It's a body horror story. It's written by Christopher Cantwell, Alex Linz, and Jacob Edgar on art. His body has lost cohesion, lost stability. Plastic Man and Woozy suffer a bit of a setback while trying to capture one of the Metal Men. Well, setbacks, putting it mildly. Now there's no turning back toward the superheroes they used to be, or they used to call allies. As his body grows increasingly unstable, Plastic Man must turn to a villainous ally in hopes of constructing the weapon that could cure him, no matter how slim the odds of success. So I'm so excited for the series. Christopher Cantwell is just a fantastic writer. I like the body horror. I mean, typically I'm not a fan of body horror art, but it makes so much sense for Plastic Man. His body's losing cohesion and what have you. I just can't wait to read this.
Yeah, no, and it's just so different because we don't get a lot of Plastic Man, and I don't read Fantastic Four, so I don't, frankly, I'm not used to reading about the adventures of a guy who can stretch much. So maybe there's all kinds of cool insights over in Fantastic Four with Mr. Reed Richards, but and well, we've got a Fantastic Four movie coming out, maybe we'll see. But when I think of stretchy guys, I think of Plastic Man. So and body horror, I mean, seems to be the genre of the moment. It's been with us for the last 5 years, and the quasi popularity of horror hasn't left us yet. There's still a lot of horror comic books out there, particularly by Dark Horse for some reason. But in any event, I'm definitely going to be checking this out. Christopher Cantwell has, he's I got some mixed feelings on some of his stuff, but I really enjoyed his Briar,
Yeah.
which I thought was decent. But we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, speaking of horror, we've got a Batman werewolf comic coming out from Rodney Barnes. You might know that name from Philadelphia, Eisner-winning series he writes.
Right.
Art and cover by Steven Subic. I'm not a fan of Subic's art, a little too impressionistic for me. It's Batman. He's turning into a werewolf. I don't know what else to add. I'll read it. I'll read my press copy. I'm not really I'm not really excited for it. It's been there, done that. There was a Batman annual back in the day where actually was it an Action Comics annual with guest starring Batman where Batman was turned into a werewolf? Yeah, way back when. Yeah. So
Can't remember.
Anyway, next to last issue of John Constantine, Dead in America, written by Cy Spurrier and Aaron Campbell. Actually, sorry, it's final issue, 11 of 11. So curious how that's gonna all end up. We see him fighting against Morpheus, or Morpheus actually holding him there. We know Constantine has been dead this entire series. Sounds like death finally going to come to claim him. I'm curious to see how it all winds up.
Yeah, me too. I haven't necessarily fully understood or comprehended every plot aspect of John Constantine Hellblazer, Dead in America, but I've bought every physical copy. It's a gorgeous, it's a beautiful comic, and it's always thought provoking. And even when I don't understand everything that's going on, there's always enough concepts in there that it makes me think about some aspect of humanity, everything from horror to betrayal to blood, guts, gore, and the undead.
Yeah, that's just a gorgeous main cover by Aaron Campbell. All right, last book, Jenny Sparks, written by Tom King. Gorgeous art from Jeff Spokes. This is up to issue 4. Jenny tries to negotiate for the release of Captain Atom's hostages after the Justice League Justice League falls to his godlike powers. Can the spirit of the 20th century prevail in the 21st, or is the reluctant hero in over her head? So, this coming week, the first issue of Jenny Sparks is coming out. I can't wait to review it and talk about it in more detail. I'm really excited for this series. A little bit of a spoiler here. Obviously, if you haven't read the first one, that Captain Atom is the villain. But yeah, all I can say is tune in to Rocky's channel this coming week for our DC Spotlights. Learn much more about this series. But yeah, I'm really excited. I like the take that Tom King has for Jenny Sparks.
Yeah, I got I listened to Tom King's interview. He talked about this on I think it was
Word Balloon.
Word Balloon, and it I can't say that the take really grabs me. Well, I mean, the general idea being, what does the spirit of the 20th century have something to say for the 21st? So even though Jenny Sparks supposedly died, she's the spirit of the 20th century. What what insights can we learn? I guess from so I'm thinking of this in terms of metaphorically, in terms of theme. What can Jenny Sparks? What can we learn from Jenny Sparks? What her spirit of the 20th century? What and I guess Captain Atom represents the 21st century. And how does she? How is she still alive? And how is she going to save the day? And so, I mean, I'm intrigued by it, but at the same time, I'm really curious to know what thematic elements Tom King's going to introduce to sort of hook us into the story through I think it's 6 issues long. So he's definitely got my curiosity on this one.
Yeah, I will say, in terms of her returning, her last line when she died was, take care of the world or I'll come back and kick your heads in. Clearly the world has not been taken care of because she's back to kick some heads in. I misspoke. Yeah. There is one more book I want to mention. We have Nice House by the Sea, issue number 5. James Tynion is the writer. Alvaro Martinez Bueno on art. I want to talk about this because the overseer of the House by the Sea, which we know as Max, who was introduced in the first issue that we've covered, she wants to meet with Walter, who's the overseer of Nice House by the Lake, which we already talked about that series. But there's only one small problem with that. Walter's dead, and the residents of the House of the Lake killed him. Wait, what? He's like all powerful. How could he have been killed? Continuing.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, continuing to tell a much larger story. Well, it was kind of hinted that he was killed at the end of the Nice House by the Lake. So I guess just confirmation of that. The fact that those characters were able to kind of turn the tables on Walter. It was definitely hinted at in the series. Although again, this is confirmation. But yeah, a much larger tale in these Nice House stories. And it sounds like they're going to start coming together more with issue number 5 here.
Yeah, no, I love Nice House by the Lake. It was probably one of my favorite comics of the last 10 years. Nice House by the Sea. First issue has got me captivated. This is already the solicitation for issue 5, so there's lots of story, I'm sure, between issues 1 and 5. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm on board with this for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And the Alvaro Martinez Bueno art is perfectly suited for the story that James Tynion is telling. So yeah, it's working on a lot of different levels for sure. So just trying to get back up to that first art that we saw, which is probably the book that most people are most highly anticipating for the month of November for DC Comics, which is the return of the Justice League with Justice League Unlimited. Clearly in this version, Captain Atom's not a villain like he is in the Jenny Sparks novel or Jenny Sparks series. Which is good. I feel like Captain Atom gets kind of a bad. I don't know for what reason he originally was the one that was going to be the original villain. It ended up being Hank Hall.
Armageddon, right? The Armageddon series,
2001. Yeah, because it got leaked that it was Captain Atom. But ever since then, man, he's like straddled the line. I feel bad for him. I think he's actually a pretty noble character, but I don't know why he gets picked to be the villain, the guy that loses control all the time. But anyway, be that as it may, those are solicitations for November. Don't forget to check out Rocky's channel. As I mentioned earlier, our DC spotlights are there every super late on Tuesday night, early on Wednesday. When they release, we talk about all the DC books that come out every week. So Comic Space Boom ! Is where you can find that. If you're curious about other Comic Source content and you're watching us on YouTube here, clearly just subscribe to this channel, right? Click the notification bell so you know when new content comes out. Leave your comments on this video. What are you looking forward to in November for solicitations? All the support we really appreciate and really helps us get the word out. There's also literally thousands of audio-only episodes on the Comic Source podcast feed. So if you want to listen to any of that content, go to wherever you get your podcast, whatever app or platform you prefer. Do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. Again, it just helps us with our access, helps us to spread the word, helps us to allow publishers to see good work that we're doing, so they give us press previews and give us access and allow us to do interviews and all that sort of stuff. So we appreciate the support as always, everybody. I think All Along the Watchtower is probably my number one book that I'm looking forward to, although Absolute Superman is a close second. You have a book or two that you're most looking forward to in November, Rocky?
It's Batgirl is my number one. I'm most looking forward to Batgirl, probably with Black Canary a close second, just because I like the Lady Shiva involvement. So
yeah,
for sure.
Fair enough. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We appreciate you joining us as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.